Well, it says I'm live. That was a fucking disaster. So I've got Tim joining this new one. He should be here in a sec. Yeah. Yeah, so hello everyone. Yeah, sorry about that. I'm a fucking dumb cunt with technology. I didn't have a broadcast button, and so I was yeah, I don't know. I just started a new stream. So I've got Tim. Tim should be joining us in a sec. Yeah, how is everyone? How's chat? What's going on? Stupid cunt. Pairing is a cunt.
Did it work?
Yeah, man. Yeah, we got you. Yeah.
All right.
We're finally on. We've just had 500 people fucking just shift from the old fucked one to this one.
All
so
right.
that was shit. So yeah, Tim Poole, it's good to meet you, man.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
No, pleasure. So I think we should start with the important stuff. You visited a cock museum last week.
Oh yeah. One of the most important stories I've ever done.
That was fantastic.
The penis museum in Reykjavik. It's the biggest penis collection in the world.
It's a legit penis museum. We're not fucking around. It's a museum full of cocks.
Yeah, and it's actually very, very educational. They have only one human penis, but it's a lot of mammal penises. And I think actually the most interesting thing, like, yeah, you can go there and look at like a whale dick, which is bigger than like a human child, and that's just the tip. But they have folklore penises. Yeah, just the tip. Yeah. But the folklore section was actually pretty fascinating because some people in Iceland believe in gnomes and trolls and elves, and they claim to have an elf penis bone and a troll penis. Yeah. I think, any kind of like rational, pragmatic person is going to laugh and say, yeah, it's just a mock-up. But there are actually people who believe in that stuff out there. So,
Yeah, but you got to wonder what it actually was, though. It's kids pinky or something.
Yeah.
So the biggest was the blue whale, did you say?
Well, that's the biggest, but the blue whale one that they had was only like a baby blue whale, and the biggest penis they actually had was a sperm whale. And so I don't know if you watched the video, if for some reason, like I kind of did this video because I wanted to start off the new year with things that weren't depressing, that was a bit of levity. But they have like a narwhal penis, and he shows you like, here's the actual penis, and then he shows you the tip, and then he looks over at the sperm whale penis, which is like, I don't know, 5 feet tall. And he says, this is just the tip. The actual penis is like 15 feet or some ridiculous, like massive. Yep. Well, I mean, whales are huge. So, the funny thing about it is like the whole place, it's like a joke. The founder started it as a joke because he was given what's called a pizzle, which is like a whipping. It's like a weapon made from a bull penis. And so
what is it?
It's a real thing. And the guy was telling me, yeah, it's called a pizzle. And what was really funny is the guy giving me the tour, he talked about how in like Spain, it was used not just as a weapon, but it was actually like a dishonorable. It was like, not only did it hit you for physical pain, it hit your pride. They want it. Yeah,
because you're getting dick whipped. You're literally getting dick whipped.
No, yeah, exactly. So like, to dishonor somebody and to hurt them, you'd hit them with a bull penis, and that was like, whoa, like it's like a double. So it's a psychological damage as well as physical damage, which is actually pretty interesting, yeah.
But how did shit figured out in the olden days? That guy that was showing around, he took his job pretty seriously. Like it didn't seem like a joke. Like it didn't seem like let's go and have a laugh at the Dick Museum. He was legit.
Yeah. I mean, people go there because it's funny. They have like in down in the downtown area, they have a huge ad. There's like, it's one of the reasons I wanted to go, because it's not like some, you're driving down the road in the States and there's a sign that says like Dick Museum and it's like a tourist trap. No, this is something they actually, when I was flying to Iceland, in the magazine, I open up and there's like on a page, like a half-page ad, it says the Penis Museum. It's called the Phallological Museum. And so it's pretty
Phallological Museum.
It's a serious thing, and as much as people do get a kick out of it, it's funny. It's legit. They have it's like the legit biggest mammal penis collection. So hey, look, we can sit here and laugh at how funny it is, but at the same time, let's take the time to realize this is science and biology, and studying and displaying penises is important. Again, we can laugh at it, but hey, man, science, it's still science. Maybe it's one of the funnier ones, but
that's fair enough. That's fair enough.
And the folklore section too is also history. It's like there's I think maybe my favorite thing there was this picture they have of a guy with a string a string wrapped around his dick, and then the other end of the string is tied to a goat, like a ram's horn. And he told me it's a story from Nordic mythology or whatever about Loki, and Loki was trying to make some woman laugh, so he tied a string to his balls and tied it to a goat, and then the goat would pull on his nuts. And I'm like, that's really interesting. Jeez, that's like part of like an ancient religion and like a mythological belief, and it's also absolutely ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. Yeah.
So it's yeah.
It's worth a try though. And so who's last thing on the penis subject? Whose was the human penis? Who was the lucky donor?
Apparently, it was like some Icelandic. I think it was an Icelandic entrepreneur who like 90 something years old, and when he finally died, they gave it to him. Well, honestly, the scariest thing about it was the guy told me, I don't know if this was in the video. I think it was. The guy told me there was no, actually, I don't know if we put it in. There's a human who wants to cut off his dick and donate it while he's still alive.
What?
And and I was kind of like, that's kind of messed up, man. And he said,
what's the point of that? It's not like his dick's going to still be alive. I mean, it's the same as if he's dead.
Yeah, seriously. Apparently, he said, the guy giving me the tour said, well, he wants to come and visit his penis. And I was like, I think look, man, if somebody, just somebody who wants to cut off their dick while they're alive, look, you can't, that you're not well. I don't know. Yeah. To each their own, I guess. I don't, to what extent should people intervene and prevent self-harm? It's a philosophical debate about, I don't know, objectivism or like free will versus government control. But I'm just going to stay out of that one and be like, I'm going to lean on the side of let's not have the guy cut off his dick while he's still alive. But, I don't know. People are going to do their thing.
And more to the point, let's not let the fellow who's willing to cut his dick off on the premises to visit his penis. That's
I don't know. It's kind of, yeah. But it certainly isn't the most important thing. It was kind of, we're in Iceland. It's been, this thing has been talked about quite a bit because it's like funny. And I figured, yeah, I'll just go there. And, all of my videos are always some kind of depressing. It's like news is kind of a negative. So let's do something that's more silly.
No, it was good. It was
not to disrespect them. Yeah.
And so, well, yesterday wasn't all depressing. I mean, I think you found it depressing because you're a serious news guy. But mate, I got to tell you, I was eating my breakfast while I watched that, and I almost pissed my pants. It was
the gorilla video.
Gorilla Gate is the best thing that's happened this year. So give us a recap of Gorilla Gate.
Okay, a book came out called Fire and Fury, and it's supposedly about Donald Trump's White House. Trump wanted to prevent the book's release, something like that. Like, the lawyers filed like a cease and desist, and then the publishers decided to put out early. And so when this book comes out, you have all of these people who are basically anti-Trump talking about how they're going to stay up all night reading it and how they can't put it down. And this parody account posted a fake excerpt that talked about how the first thing Trump wanted when he moved in was the Gorilla Channel, and he was upset that he couldn't find it. So the White House staffers started putting together gorilla documentaries, built a transmission tower on the South Lawn to broadcast gorilla videos, and then Trump was upset that gorillas weren't fighting. So they edited only gorilla fights. And then this excerpt says that Trump would lean in front of the TV whispering things to the gorillas.
This is the best bit. Yeah, go on.
Saying things like, "You're the best," like that was the best fight, as if the gorillas could actually hear him. Okay. It's funny that I found that satirical post to be absolutely hilarious. I was laughing, and then people believed it was real. It's like a Democratic strategist, comedians, pundits, they were all just like, wow, I can't believe that Trump actually did this. And it's like, yes, you're right. Don't believe it. It's absolute insanity. The fact that a Democratic strategist believed that White House staffers built a transmission tower on the White House on the South Lawn, it's actually terrifying to me.
To beam in the Gorilla Channel, the fucking
you can just see the South Lawn. Like you can walk to the White House, take a picture with like your friend. Like it's not some like dark secret. There's photos. You can Google it and see tons of photos of it. If they built a transmission tower, it would have been the top trending story. What the hell is Trump doing with a transmission tower? Not only that, look, if Trump wanted to watch gorillas fight, YouTube. Like his staffers could have created a YouTube playlist of gorilla fights. And like, here you go, or at the very least, a set-top box of some sort. I mean, smart TVs. Like, what TV isn't smart these days? And they could be like, here's a playlist of gorillas fighting.
Yeah.
People.
He's a little USB with just a heap of gorilla shit on it.
People believed it, And it's funny because we've seen like instances where people have fallen for Onion articles. Like the Onion would put out something satirical and people believe it, and it's everybody. But I just, I mentioned in my video, Don Cheadle, he tweeted something like, this rings false to me. And I appreciate his skepticism because, it's really easy when everyone tells you something is true and everyone believes it, because you want to think like, really? Like if everyone's saying it's true, am I crazy if I'm the only one who thinks otherwise? And that's something I'm sure a lot of people experience. Yeah. You hear news stories. I mean, actually, we'll get a little bit conspiratorial. The Gulf of Tonkin incident for the longest time was a conspiracy theory. The idea that the U.S. faked the attack in the Gulf of Tonkin to pull us into the Vietnam War. But now we know, the past few years, it's revealed to have been a fact that it was a false flag. And so I can just imagine someone sitting there being like, am I the only one who sees the truth here? That this is obvious BS?
Yeah, you'd doubt yourself, wouldn't you? You'd really doubt yourself.
But I think when you see Don Cheadle say it, his tweet was skeptical, but he said, you never know, shows how entrenched in Trump derangement syndrome a lot of people are, where it's like, I think Trump, like personally, I think Trump is a bit, I don't know if the right word is for it. He's like a cartoon character. I don't necessarily think clown is the right word because he's a bit too serious, but my God, that tweet where he said, I'm like really smart and stable.
Oh, that was fantastic. I can picture him sitting there at fucking 3 o'clock in the morning writing that, just going, yeah, they're gonna, this is just gonna cause uproar. This is gonna be fucking awesome.
Yeah. But it's just people are so like psychotically entrenched in this Trump derangement system. They will believe anything. Literally to the point where someone claimed he was sitting 4 inches from a TV talking to TV gorillas, and people were like, wow, did you hear about that? And like the most like, not the most, but like the skepticism we get is, I don't know, that might be wrong. It's like, dude, holy wow.
Yeah. The only way you could stretch it more is if he had a shit in his hand and threw it at the TV when he didn't like a fight or something.
I just, somebody who claimed it, like who thought it was real, came out like saying, oh no, I got hoaxed by this, but hey, you have to understand, Trump is beyond parody. And I'm like, no. There's literally no excuse for believing that story. There's none whatsoever.
No, there's no. And so did this get published anyway? Like, did it get published in any newspapers or anything like that? Or was we just talking Twitter?
Yeah, well, no, I think it's like some smaller blogs may have run it, but like, let's be real, as much as the mainstream media isn't perfect, they definitely did not fall for this. And several outlets wrote about how everyone fell for it. I mean, it's one thing when someone like when Brian Ross is he's anchoring a show and he says something totally fake that, Trump as a candidate ordered Flynn to contact the Russians, and then he gets in trouble for it. It's another thing to see a tweet and then not fact check it. And that's happened in the past. A lot of the stuff is crazy, but I don't think, as far as I know, I don't think any big publications fell for it. I'm sure smaller, channels did. But this is a really good example of, if people are willing to believe this, you have to realize like this is the most psychotically outrageous bullshit ever. I don't know. I apologize for swearing, but you can, and like, I don't think about stories that are likely to be false or misleading, like the Trump Russia thing that Brian Ross got in trouble for, and everyone will believe that. And when you realize that they will believe the gorilla story, you're like, okay, you could literally say anything and they'll believe it. You could say, you could put out a story about, Trump peeing on a pillow so that Obama would sleep, like the Trump dossier. People believe it. Yeah. It's like, it's mind blowing. There's no, it's like I hate to make the analogy, but it's like a herd of sheep just walking forward and someone dangles a gorilla story and they all just walk towards it like, yep, whatever you say is true. There's no critical thinking.
Trump derangement syndrome is a real thing. It really is.
Yeah. One thing I noticed, we talk about the cultural civil war. There's like a divide, and some people say it's the left and the right. I don't think that's true, because you have people like, Sargon, who says he's left leaning, he's a classic liberal or whatever. Dave Rubin, who says he's left leaning or whatever. And then you have people who are actually right wing conservatives. I consider myself, pretty left. But we all agree on, certain things like free expression. When stories are fake, we don't fall for this. And I think the real divide has to do with those who just follow the herd and those who don't. Each side has its own pitfalls. But what I've noticed is that those that are kind of aligned with what we describe as the left, they are, because they just believe whatever they're told. Someone says Trump did the gorilla thing and they go, wow, and then they go around repeating it. The other faction of people Google search things and end up finding channels like yours or mine or, whoever else.
Yours. I just talk shit. But it's also, I mean, apart from just, people who follow and people who don't, there's you could say it's the radicals and the reasonables type thing, the people who are willing to critically think, and the ones that just sort of follow this, the political dogma type thing.
Yeah, I guess people feel like it's a conspiracy. Everybody wants to feel like the bad guy is, that there's a main boss to fight. And the reality is, I think it's all dominoes falling down. It just happens. I don't think there's anybody in charge. I don't know. I don't know if there's even hope.
You're not a deep state man.
Well, sure. Certainly, the deep state is a real thing. I mean, I'm not. Admittedly, I don't do a lot of research on it, but at least insofar as the idea exists that, the CIA has employees who stay there for years beyond the political campaigns. Like the director of the FBI is going to be there longer than the president, and so on and so forth. And that leads to a kind of permanent government, as people have called it, which we refer to as the deep state. That's true. But I met with somebody who worked in intelligence, and I think it's far less coordinated than people realize. It's so much easier to put the blame on like an individual or a group, but the reality is.
But then how can you say the deep state exists if there's no tangible, there's no organized, organization or body? It's free flowing. It's dominoes falling, like you said.
Well, yeah, it is. So look, groups can exist, right? And I just don't think they're as powerful as everyone thinks. I think they're subject to, I put it this way. It's like we're all, like every human being, every ideal culture, it's like an ocean. And the deep state is a current. It has a lot of sway in a certain area of the ocean, but ultimately, is it going to direct the entire flow of all of this, like all of the currents around the world? No, but they do have an impact. I think ultimately the stuff we see where people say, like it's George Soros, he's like orchestrating these things to like bring about Marxism and all that stuff. And I'm like, grain, the analogy I always use is grains of sand in the heap. They say, how many grains of sand until you have a heap? And in that instance, I think there are certainly groups and individuals who are more influential than others. But I don't think, the current cultural civil war was orchestrated by anybody. I think, for the most part, we see this stuff because of opportunism. News organizations, I should say. I shouldn't give them the full credit, but I know this for a fact because I worked at Fusion, and they said to side with the audience, and then they explained that as, oh well, our audience are young progressives and liberals, so that's the information, that's the direction we're going to go, and that it's really simple actually. I'll put it this way: what works in terms of capturing people's attention? Clickbait. You look at like Logan and Jake Paul, he'll make a video titled "I lost my virginity," and it's like some girl like writing up on him. Yeah, people are going to click that. And when they click that, once people click something, they're likely to not click away unless something jars them. So they might just turn it on and stare at the screen, which is why vlogs and clickbait work. So what ends up happening? The biggest channels, the people who make money, make these nonsense videos that kind of annoy like older, more mature people, and kids just get sucked into it. But look at what happens then with politics. So put it this way: you have two channels start. One of them says, "Hey, let's just do rational news and just be reasonable about what's going on." And sure, they'll get clicks, but if they're not doing clickbait and trying to incite, anger and emotions, they're not going to do nearly as well as, say, like Vox or Mashable or Vice.
And that's an issue, isn't it? Because it just means that the conveyor belt of bullshit is going to win out.
And it's going to speed up. And it's just, the investors come in, right? And they look at these channels and say, well, look, real news doesn't make any money. Let's invest in this channel that's getting 10 times the views. And so, Mic.com, MIC.com, it's a really good example. They did a video where during the Trump campaign, before the election, in Janesville, Wisconsin, an argument breaks out between a young woman and an old man. The young woman starts screaming, "You touched me, you touched me, he touched my chest." The old guy puts his hand up and he says, "No, I didn't do anything." She then punches the old man, and someone else then pepper sprays her. Mic.com took this, it's like a 2-second clip where the punch happens and the pepper spray happens. And they did a white wipe, like a fade to white, right before she punches the guy, and then it fades back in as soon as she's getting pepper sprayed. So to the untrained person, it looks like they edited it for time. Like, oh, here she is fighting, and now here she is getting pepper sprayed. But in reality, all they did was cover up the split second where she throws a punch. And the video says that she was sexually assaulted and then pepper sprayed, omitting the fact that she was actually, I would phrase it as she got into a fight. She got into a fight with some guy, she punched him, she got pepper sprayed. But that video works, right? That video will get shares because the left, the feminists, are going to see that. And they're not going to know this woman actually punched first because they did the white flash so you couldn't see it. And then what happens? The video gets shared, it makes money, and investors are attracted to that because it generates revenue. And the company is encouraged to do more of this. And then legit news organizations suffer. So then we see, Newsweek is now, like social justice baiting people. It's terrible. They do. The clever thing that news organizations do is they make you assume something. They'll say something that isn't technically false, but it leads you to the wrong conclusion.
Well, did you see? Oh fuck! It was one of the. It was a British article covering Dankula's, supposedly covering his court hearing that Sargon was reading on This Week in Stupid. That was like, the headline was like, man trains pug to respond to hideous, racist remark about Jews. There was nothing about the fucking court case. There's nothing about the court case being adjourned. There was, it was just look at, this guy's terrible. He's terrible. It's
comedy's illegal.
yeah, that's scary, isn't it? Speaking of sexual harassment, did you happen to catch hashtag? Fuck, what was it? Hashtag Time's Up.
No, what is that?
Well, it seems to be hashtag Me Too, part 2. On steroids. Let's beef it up. Let's get this in gear. So, what's her name? And I think it's also seems to be a little bit of Hollywood deflection, so getting the attention of Hollywood, because I noticed Reese Witherspoon came out and there was something on Twitter about how she was saying that. The tired old stat that 1 in 4, I think it was at one point, it was 1 in 5 women will get sexually harassed on wherever. They're now claiming 1 in 3 in workplaces. So I think the fact that Reese Witherspoon's saying this, I think she's trying to get some attention off Hollywood. She's saying 1 in 3 women will be sexually harassed in workplaces. I forget whether it was across America or across the world. Let me just have a look.
It's like statistics don't matter, research doesn't matter.
No.
There's an article from the Wall Street Journal called "White Informed Civility is the Next Target," and it talks about how at universities there's actually a push that says factual debate is like a microaggression, and that the debate should be more based on your feelings instead of like challenging facts. And if someone presents a fact that is offensive, the person responds with "ouch." Hate
facts.
Yeah, let's say this. According to Pew Internet Research, men face the overwhelming brunt of online harassment. across the board, except for a few areas like stalking and sexual harassment. And I think that's fairly obvious. But men still face a substantial amount of sexual harassment. And then the issue becomes when you look at these statistics, when you look at the actual attempts at science in this area, it contradicts all of this narrative that's being put out. And then I think this goes back to what I was saying earlier about the cultural civil war. There's a group of people that don't care to actually do the research and fact check. They'll just believe it. You know, when Obama says like the gender wage gap, which is totally misleading. It's what, you know, the wage gap is the perfect example of how they mislead you when they say, absolutely. You know, yes, technically, like across all jobs, men make more, but when you do job for job, age to age, like millennial women are making more in most cases. They omit the nuance and the facts, and then this group of people that we assign mostly to the left don't fact check it, and so then there you go.
Technically, we have free will, so that's going to happen. It's really
simple. Yeah, and you know, business people will exploit that. I'm without calling anybody out, I can say definitively there are a few major digital news publications or media publications that are run by white libertarian guys that know this is all BS. But look, they make money and they don't care. You know, their attitude is like, yeah, whatever, let people believe whatever they want. Perception is reality and I'll get paid.
Yeah, the dollar producing headlines. That really sucks. And so how do you think, I mean, what do you think, if anything, will stop that in the future? I mean, how do we stop that?
Oh, I don't think you solve it, right? Because look,
so where does it end up then? We just end up in just a clusterfuck of bullshit. Like literally nothing's true. Just
you know, maybe it ends with full on civil war, because you know, think about it. Nobody wants to calm down. You know, I guarantee you, due to market forces, these companies like Vox, like to a lesser degree Mashable's in their Vice, they're never going to back down off of their hardcore leftist rhetoric that is totally misleading for a few reasons. One, the people at the top don't want to lose money. And so they're like, look, we can be calm and rational and reasonable. Are we going to go out of business? Yes. Then why the fuck would we do it? But what ends up happening is, you know, using Fusion as a more specific example, because I worked there, they hire people who are indoctrinated. They hire people who already believe this. Let me tell you a story that's going to blow your fucking mind. I don't know if you care about swearing, but holy shit, dude.
Oh, that's fine.
Somebody at Fusion, right? I'm friends with a lot of these people, and these are hardcore social justice warriors. I don't know if that phrase is a pejorative, but this woman, she comes over, and she's really nice. We get along, and she goes, "Can I ask you a question, Tim?" I'm like, "Yes." And she goes, "How many of your friends are cool with rape?" And I went, "Yeah." It's my response. I was like, "Wait, what?" And she was like, "Yeah, like how many of your guy friends are like cool with rape?" And I said, "None of them." And she goes, "Really? No, for real. Like, how many of them?" And I was like, "Dude, are you joking right now? Do you actually think like guys like rape?" I'm like, I understand there's like rapists are a real thing. Yeah. But I'm like, honestly, I was like, yeah, none of my friends are cool with that. And she goes, "But I mean, like, you guys are hanging out, and then like one guy talks about how he like raped some girl, and you guys like laugh about it." And I was like, "Whoa, no." I'm like, look, if I was hanging out with my friends, like me and my friends, we sit around like playing video games, and my friends will drink. I don't really drink. And if someone was like, "Yo, dude, I raped some chick last night," we'd be like, "What?"
Yeah, we'd
shit. Be like, is that a joke? Like, that's a bad joke in the first place. And if he went into great detail, we'd probably kick him out and be like, "Dude, that's fucked up, dude."
Yeah,
like,
no shit.
We wouldn't know how to respond to that.
It's almost like she thinks you know, one of your mates will sort of say, "Raped this chick last night," and you sort of, you know, weigh it up.
High five, dude! Yeah, like we're all gonna laugh about it, like craft beers.
No, but even if you don't approve of it, you know, oh, okay, well I'm not too comfortable with that. But he's a good basketball player. We don't want to lose him off the team, you know.
My friends were like skaters, gamers. We play music together. And I was like, dude, if one of like our friends flat out started bragging about raping somebody, we'd probably tell him to fuck off. We'd be like, there's literally nothing about that we want to associate with. But this is an example of like the indoctrination. This is somebody who genuinely believes guys sit around high-fiving each other as they brag about raping women. Which, look, let's be honest, I'm sure there's a very small percentage, like, you know, these things aren't impossible. I'm sure there are like rapey dudes who laugh about it. And rapists exist.
Yeah, of course, there's going to be small pockets, but fucking hell,
like the idea that in the general public, like that it blows my mind because it's wow. When she said that to me, not only did it say to me that she genuinely believes on average there are guys who laugh about raping women, which is nowhere near the average. She actually believes that me, somebody who actually works for this lefty publication, who agrees with a lot of their like a lot of what they say, would openly associate with those who would brag about raping women. And I'm like, if you think that even the lefty guys working for the social justice publications are okay with this, like that's a terrifying world you live in. Where what are you like coming into the office, looking at all the guys and being like, yes, these men want to rape me, and that's the perception they have. That's the world they live in. That every guy, like a certain number of them, like you were saying, 1 in 3 women are being like assaulted or harassed, and I'm sure there's like it's maybe more than the average person believes. Like I should say male because women experience this stuff for sure. But the idea that on average men are like high-fiving each other in private and whispering to each other about this is who gets hired by these social justice companies.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's fucking amazing. But the thing with sexual harassment and the number creeping up. I mean, it's got to be a lot to do with the fucking definition of sexual harassment. Surely, I mean, they're saying it's gone up 25% for fuck's sake. That's ridiculous.
Well, when looking at the Vice story, the New York Times did, where they said Vice sexual harassment. There was one instance where one of the employees said a supervisor grabbed her boob and her ass. And the New York Times called that harassment. And I'm like, no, hold on. That's like assault. You call it sexual assault, whatever you want. It's physical assault, grabbing somebody like that. That's fair. But they called it harassment. I don't know, man. I think there's an incentive to push the narrative because outrage gets you clicks, It's the biggest bummer when we going back to talking about what is the future going to look like? It's the end of the world. I just know that if I focused majority of my videos at individuals and was angry with them and attacked them and said things like liberals are all morons, I'd get way more subscribers. I'd make way more money. And a lot of people do this on purpose on the left and the right, and a lot of people accidentally do it. I think. You look at someone like Lauren Duca, who I absolutely, I try not to be so disrespectful, but I really, really despise this woman, particularly because she took one of my tweets out of context and got thousands of retweets on it, trying to make it look like I was sympathizing with Nazis or some psychotic.
What?
I feel
what's her name? Lauren Duca.
Yeah, Lauren Duca, I think her name is. She works for Teen Vogue. She got a couple 100,000 followers, and there was this thing happened where Joey Salads did a video where he was wearing a Nazi armband, and then he went to a Trump rally and they threw him out of the Trump rally. And Joey was trying to do it as a point to be like, look, the Trump supporters hate Nazis because they're like constitutionalists. She took people were sharing a screenshot of this claiming that Joey was at Charlottesville, that it was a photo from Charlottesville and that he was in the rally when he wasn't. And and so Joey came out and I said, basically in the interest of the truth, this is a photo from a social experiment, and Joey was doing a prank. She took that and then pushed it forward saying like, I don't care if you're joking, this is like not okay. And then there are like celebrities are commenting on it, and it's like totally taking what I was saying out of context and making it seem like I was saying it's okay to wear a Nazi armband in Charlottesville because it was supposed to be a joke. No. Like the point of the tweet was the video that everyone's claiming is from Charlottesville was actually from California, and it's a different video. And that's what she does. She takes things out of context. She's a progressive activist, not a journalist. But what ends up happening is people call her a journalist, and those that don't fact check and just want to believe these things are true are gonna believe everything she says. So when she puts out this nonsense, out of context, bad faith arguments that makes me look bad, she's on my poop list.
And then if you dispute the context of the you're disputing the location, you're all of a sudden defending Nazis.
Exactly. It's look, the bigger picture. There is no solution because market. This is why I say I'm kind of center left, because the market is going to encourage this behavior. Like plain and simple, yellow journalism makes more money than legit journalism, period. And I don't know if there's a solution to this, because I also don't think we should regulate speech or anything like that. So I don't know, maybe there's no way to solve this without curtailing people's freedoms. And I disagree with Ed Moore, than people putting out fake news.
Yeah, so do I.
But where does this end up? We're going to end up in a world where the left keeps doubling down to the point where, you know, the way I tell to people is, first, someone put out an article saying, is Trump racist? And I got a bunch of clicks. So then they said, how do we one up this and get these clicks again? Oh, well, let's just call him racist flat out. So they make an article called Trump is racist. Then they're like, that also went viral. Let's make Trump might be literally Hitler. Then they make one, Trump is orange Hitler. Like, they just keep escalating because you know, people get addicted and they want more. They want more anger, more hate.
And they almost become sources unto themselves. So there's never any instance of racism anyone can point to, but it's just all these previews.
Well, they changed the definition of racism, right? It's like, oh, well, you know, Trump's anti-Muslim, so that means he's racist. And then when people who support Trump are like, Muslim's not a race, it's an ideology, people say, oh, you're pulling hair, you're splitting hairs. That's because it's tribal. You know, it's tribal to the point where people would choose to believe, they would rather believe that Trump had a transmission tower built on the White House lawn, even though it's like plainly, it's so obvious it's just not true. And it was a funny parody. It was like, really good job to the parody people. But that's how crazy it's gotten. There's no solution to that. Not just because the market forces will dictate and allow these companies to grow, but because people refuse to admit they're wrong. So even if someone finds out the gorilla story is fake, most people, like that one woman said, oh, but you know, we all believed it because Trump is beyond parody. Right. They make an excuse for this.
It's something that he would do.
You know what, man, I bought some gold. I'll tell you what, I had Bitcoin, but I bought some gold and silver recently. Not a whole lot, but you know, never in my life. I always hear like Alex Jones yelling, like, you got to buy your gold, people. They're coming into the world.
That's a quality impression. That was.
Oh, thank you. I wasn't even trying, but I always laughed. I'm like, yeah, I understand, but the way I see it is, if the economy collapses and the world's on fire, I don't think I'm going to worry about gold, because I don't know, I'll probably just try and find water or something. But as crazy as it's been getting with the cultural civil war, you know, some people are like, oh, it's calming down, things are getting better, and I'm like, it's just winter. You know, nobody goes outside when it's cold. It could rain and people won't protest. I think it's getting worse.
But what about like those the last sort of you know, what was supposed to be the big anti-far rallies? I think there was one in when was it? It was I don't even remember where it was, but the last time there was meant to be a big, you know, we're gonna rise up and we're gonna get Trump out of office. It was one particular day they did it. There was fuck all. Nothing happened. It was a pissy stream of fuckwits walking down the middle of a road.
You know, there's a couple ways you can see it. People are getting used to Trump. They're getting used to nothing happening, nothing changing. So, you know, eventually they're going to stop going out and protesting. But I think once we start getting closer to 2020 is when I really get worried. Trump, I don't know what's going to happen, but if Trump doesn't get the nomination automatically for re-election, because usually the incumbent president is just not nominated again by the party. Unless that changes, Trump's going to be running again in 2020. And then we're going to see all of this Trump derangement system bubble over to where people are, you know, look, they're already calling Trump orange Hitler. Anti-fascists already believe they are fighting the revolution. Now that they've been able to recruit some run-of-the-mill liberals into believing Trump is literally Hitler, I think it's going to escalate over the next few years. So it might, you know, start slowing down now. I think midterm elections, we might see something. But I guess it depends. You know, it's really hard to predict. I just think.
Tell me what's the story with the midterm elections? I'm not too familiar with American politics.
So
how does that work? Can that oust the president?
Not directly. It's basically like senators and Congress people are running. You know, and so right now the Republicans control everything. Sort of. It's really weird right now in American politics. But I believe it's this year we're going to start seeing a lot of senators and Congress people go for re-election. And then a lot of people think it's going to flip to Democrats controlling the Congress and the Senate, in which case Trump is deflated and he won't be able to get anything done. But it's really hard to say. I think, you know, with Trump derangement syndrome, a lot of people are going to be anti-Republican, and a lot of traditional Republicans are even, you know, refusing to support Trump because they're worried that it's going to reflect poorly on them and they won't get reelected. So it's hard to know what's going to happen. You know, honestly, I don't think I don't know if it's going to matter too much, the midterms, but I do think Trump will not be reelected in 2020. It doesn't matter what Trump does. It doesn't matter. Perception is reality.
You think it'll go back to the Democrats?
Yeah, assuming that Trump gets nominated by the Republicans again, short of something else happening, the Republicans might be like, hell no, we don't want Trump. You know, they're scared. But assuming everything goes,
that seems so bizarre for that to happen, though. I mean, I realize it could happen, but I mean, for a sitting president, you know, and the leader of a presumably he's the leader of the party, it works the same as in Australia.
Yeah.
I mean, for him not to be, you know, the nominee for the next election seems really fucking weird.
Yeah, that's why I think it'll happen. But I also think, you know, a lot of people who support Trump absolutely want to believe he's going to win, and I think you need to be rational about this. Trump derangement system is infecting everybody, and you see these posts on Reddit. My God, Reddit is dominated by anti-Trump subreddits. It doesn't matter if you know, he actually has support of people. People are going to be scared to vote for him. You know, there was a lot of talk even during the election that people were scared to come out as Trump supporters. So I'll be real and say there's also that possibility that as much as we're seeing this anti-Trump sentiment, the polls were wrong in the election, and it's very likely there's a lot of people who support him who are just keeping their mouths shut. Yeah. But in my opinion, the social engineering, the manipulation is so thick. I would be really surprised if he won. That being said, I didn't think he was going to win in the first place. So, you know, look, what do I know? I don't think
anyone did. I mean,
yeah, he had like a 17% chance to win.
Yeah, Hillary was being, you know, painted as the clear front runner. Who do you think would have you got any idea who would run for the Democrats in 2020?
People are saying Hillary. I don't know if that's legit or has any merit. I've heard Elizabeth Warren was floated, and some people are still floating Bernie Sanders. What I can say is even the Democrats are deflated. You know, Hillary took the steam out of everything that the left had. Too many, they lost, I think it was something like 20% of people aligning with the left voted for Trump. So I could be wrong, but it was like some pretty decent number in between 10 and 20%. Yeah. And, you know, a good example of that is Cassandra Fairbanks, who was like the biggest Bernie supporter. And once we know for a fact the Dems stole the nomination from Bernie, in nefarious ways, these young people are like, burn it down. We don't care anymore. So I've talked to some activists who believe the DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America, will become the new party that takes over. But I have to say, if the Democrats can't maintain, you know, growth and inspire people to vote in that direction, and we see the rise of the Democratic Socialists, it's going to fracture the left. In which case, the Republicans will still win again. You know, so we'll see what happens. It would be crazy if it becomes, in my opinion, if we don't see the Republicans versus the Democrats again. I would be shocked. But I'm also, Trump won, and no one thought it was going to happen. So who knows what's going to happen in 4 years, 3 years now. Yeah.
Imagine if they pushed fucking Chelsea up. Hey, Chelsea takes over.
They just don't want to stop, and it's like, you know, the other thing too is the Americans we don't want royal families, you know. Yeah. So even if Hillary was better, there's a lot of people who are just like, oh God, no, we did, you know, Bush, Clinton, Bush, Obama, Clinton again. No thanks. You know, let's just get them out of there. That's like the point of democratic elections and term limits. No royal families, you know.
Yeah, no dynasties. Yeah.
I see somebody in the chat said you're buying into the gaslighting, and that's the kind of the point I'm making is not that it's buying into the gaslighting, but I'm watching the gaslighting happen. I'm watching the shills. I'm looking at the front page of Reddit, and I don't think the average person is impervious to these kinds of mental attacks. You know, when Trump had a lot of steam in the election, and we still didn't think he was going to win, I didn't think they'd let him win. You know, the deep state, for instance. But now, I mean, look, you're going to deal with 4 years of media attacks, misrepresentations, flat out lies, guerrilla stories, koi fish stories, 2 scoops of ice cream, Trump's salt shaker. I don't think the American public.
I haven't heard of the salt shaker. What's the salt shaker?
Oh yeah, someone took a photo and Trump's salt shaker was bigger than Pence's, and they said Trump, you know, even Trump must have the. And I'm like, what are we talking about? Like, someone probably just came in with salt shakers and put them on the table. Like the idea that there's some conspiracy that Trump is secretly trying to make sure everything he does looks bigger than everyone else is just crazy. You know,
fantastic.
Like certainly Trump is a character who tweets very strange things like I'm a very stable genius. And I think it's fair to facepalm when he does that. But that's not, Trump tweeting things that are unorthodox or like kind of eccentric. It's very different from assuming he's secretly ordering special salt shakers and having transmission towers built. I don't think the average American's impervious to these kinds of mental attacks. And I think even people who support Trump, like the laymen, people who aren't the diehard Trump supporters, people who just said I don't want Hillary, are now going to be impacted by these crazy fake stories. I mean, look at the koi fish thing, where they said.
I was going to ask about that because I made a video and I really enjoyed making it a couple of months ago called the badass adventures of Super Trump. It's just a fucking a parody of Trump. He's got this thick Australian accent and he just calls everyone cunts and shit. But I've been meaning to find the ridiculous stories that I can, the really over the top ones. So I think the next one's going to be based on Gorilla Gate and the salt shake is going to be in there. So give me more, give me material.
Well, there was the 2 scoops of ice cream thing. You heard that, right?
Yeah, I've heard of it. What happened there?
Admittedly, this story did come from what was supposed to be, I think it was a CNN report that's supposed to be kind of not serious, but there was like an ice cream social or something, and Trump got 2 scoops of ice cream and everyone else got 1 scoop, and CNN ran the story on their website that Trump gets 2 scoops of ice cream, and it's like, who cares? Trump's like 6 foot, what is he, like 6'4" or something? He's a big dude, so give him 2 scoops of ice cream. Why is that important?
It's unbelievable that literally a scoop of ice cream made it onto the front page.
You know what bothers me is, kind of what I tweeted before about Gorilla Gate is there's legitimate things to talk about. Some people are critical of Trump ordering the commando strike, the commando raid in Yemen, which resulted in the death of an 8-year-old American girl. Some people think it's collateral damage and we need strong foreign policy and we need this action in the Middle East. I don't know which one is right, which one's wrong, or who's the bigger group who has more supporters. But we should be talking about foreign policy, economic policy. The media should not be talking about the size of Trump's salt shakers. They should be bringing up actual things that impact the world. I think the issue is there is no justification for a 24-hour news cycle anymore. You can look at I think Gamergate is a really good example of this. These publications that write about gaming, there's literally, this was a meme a while ago. It's like someone made this photo, but there's literally no reason to have a 24-hour news cycle in gaming because what's happening, Yeah. So what do they have to do? They have to write whatever they can. CNN knows, like we saw in the James O'Keefe video, at least a couple producers at CNN know for a fact they have the Trump bump, that they have to talk about Trump in a negative light so they get the ratings, in which case they will do anything they can, even if it's a lie. Cropping the koi fish video so you could not see the Japanese prime minister leading by throwing the food in the water.
Well, tell me about that because I'm unfamiliar with that one.
So Trump is visiting the prime minister of Japan. Yep. They do a traditional thing where they take little spoons and dump food into a pond where there's koi fish.
Gotcha.
The Japanese prime minister then throws all of his food in and smiles, and then Trump looks, smiles, and then dumps in as well. Trump was literally just being respectful and doing, when in Rome, right? Yep. I don't know who did it. I think it was ABC. They cropped out the Japanese prime minister, so all you could see was Trump pouring in the fish food. And then what happens? Everyone starts saying, "Oh my God, this is our president. What's he doing? That's not how you feed fish." And here's the best part: The Guardian actually wrote an article talking about how overfeeding fish is bad. And then,
but how do they know he was overfeeding the fish? How do they know how many fish are in there?
They don't. They absolutely don't. The idea is simply if someone criticizes Trump, it must be true. And everybody jumps on board with this. And the Russia investigation is another really good example of this. I have friends who work in InfoSec. I was literally hanging out with a bunch of hackers, like high-level, very wealthy white hat hackers, one of whom was like working for the government in information security and cyber warfare kind of stuff, like DARPA contracted. And I said,
"What's a white hat? What's a white hat?"
So in hacking, there's 3 hats. There's white, gray, and black. Black hat hacker is someone who's considered to be very selfish and essentially a criminal. They hack to steal information, make money, and like Russian carders, people who steal credit cards, are considered black hats. Gray hats are ambiguous. They could be breaking the law in order to further an idealistic goal. Activists, for instance, like Anonymous, are considered gray hats. And a white hat is somebody who's establishment. They work for the government, they work for corporations, they get a solid paycheck, and everything they do is on the up and up and legal. So a white hat hacker in terms of like government work is going to be like, Edward Snowden, when, I don't know if necessarily you want to call him a hacker, but when he worked for the NSA doing all that stuff, that's like white hat kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Some people believe that white hats are the true evil because they uphold the establishment and don't challenge the status quo. But anyway, more to the point, when talking about the Russia investigation, I'm talking to a white hat who actually is digging into the stuff and looking at what these Russian troll houses are doing. And their response is, well, look, we know the Russians are trying to manipulate governments, and it's just espionage. To believe that Russia and every other government on the planet, including our own, aren't engaging in espionage would be naive. But this idea that Trump actively engaged in like a campaign at the behest of Putin is a conspiracy theory. So there's legitimate people working for the government who are trying to figure out the Russian capabilities and what Russia's actually doing. And more than Russia, China, for instance, is really big, and other countries that are at odds with the US. And then what does the media do? The media just exaggerates and misinterprets every little fact, and everyone just believes the craziest nonsense about Russia, to the point where you have Luis Mensch calling me a Russian propagandist, like actually tweeting this out, like Tim Pool works for the Russians, and I'm like, it's crazy. She's got hundreds of thousands of followers. It's insane.
But why did
she believe it?
Well, why is she saying you work for the Russians? It sounds like Cold War shit.
I did one video with Cassandra Fairbanks, I think. It was like where I interviewed her about RT and Sputnik, and I said, is it Russian propaganda? And the gist of the video is that, maybe this wasn't communicated properly, but the general idea when you're talking about these news outlets is, to an extent, they are Russian propaganda. They are Russian propaganda as much as the BBC or CNN are propaganda for their respective countries. CNN is a corporate entity which has American interests. So obviously their perspective is going to be very pro-American. The BBC, obviously going to be very pro-UK and Europe. And RT is going to be very pro-Russia. So technically, yes, they're all propaganda. And the point of the video was that Cassandra wasn't hired by Sputnik to produce propaganda at the behest of the Russians. Yeah. She was hired for the work she already did, highlighting activists and activism and calling out corrupt government. She was writing about police brutality, and they said, hey, we like this, why don't you come work for us? The idea is that RT and Sputnik hires people like this because it paints the US in a bad light, okay? And that's technically true, but Vox does this, Al Jazeera does this, Mashable, Vice, every digital outlet does this. What RT and Sputnik are doing are not unique to, it is not unique to the US media sphere. And so when I did a video, like basically saying this, like RT is probably the least effective pro-Russia propaganda, because if the stories they're producing are pro-Russia propaganda, then Al Jazeera is the most effective pro-Russia propaganda, because they cover the exact same stories and they get significantly more views on their content. In which case, if that's the goal, then they must be supporting Russia too, right? No, they're not. Luis Mensch takes a clip, the screenshot, and says Tim Pool and ally of Cassandra Fairbanks and Russian propagandist, yada, yada, yada. And I'm just like, oh my God.
Tim Pool gets his orders directly from Putin. He's got a direct line to Putin.
You know, man, it's pretty depressing. Somebody asked me if how have I not lost my mind already? And I'm like, no, that's the secret. I did lose my mind a long time ago, because people are just either really, really dumb, or, you know, there's more to it than this, but I like to say there's like three groups of people. Really, really stupid people. I mean, no disrespect. There's people who don't care. They're just kind of like oblivious and are just going to say, yeah, sure, whatever. Then you have people that are kind of in the middle and are more skeptical and willing to be like, well, I don't know about that. And then you have absolutists, like anti-establishment absolutists that are like, everything is fake news, everything is fake. When you need to be, yeah, it's all a bit more nuanced than that. And so I used to be, you know, I grew up as like a skateboarding anarchist, punk rock. And then when I saw the hypocrisy of these people who considered themselves to be like, you know, anarchists or whatever, who, you know, they talked about how they believe in, they hate. I'll just tell you a story. I knew some guys, hardcore punks, skin tight clothes, dental floss, sewn up the sides. They were part of a gang, which an anarchist gang. I'm not going to call it by name.
Where'd you grow up?
Chicago on the south side. So these are kids who are like fuck racism, transphobia, fuck all these fucking phobia, conservative Nazi people, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, I agree. Fuck those people. Like, hate is bullshit. Like, let's be chill and like be about freedom. Anarchy is supposed to be, it means without authority or, no authority.
Yeah.
Instead, these people, we were skateboarding and they saw some jocks. So they went to their car, pulled out a bunch of chains, hairspray and lighters, brass knuckles, and said, we're going to go fuck up these racists. And I was like, oh, you know these guys? And they're like, no. And I'm like, wait, you're just going to go start a fight with these guys? And they're like, yeah, they're fucking jocks. And I'm like, whoa, and like, let people be. Like it was just some dudes like chilling in a parking lot of high school, like doing nothing. Yeah, and they were like, yeah, well, they're fucking jocks, man. And so then they literally walked up and got into a fight. And I'm like, later, like, I don't want to have anything to do with that. Yeah, no, that's in opposition. Like you claim one of these Antifa people, I don't want to call her out, but she tweeted that anarchism is about, freedom and cooperation and mutual decision making. And I'm like, yes, you're right, it is. In which case, Antifa, these people who go around bashing people with bike locks, throwing mortars and explosives, punching people in the face and starting fights are not anarchists. They're authoritarians. They're communists, I guess, because if you want to be on the far left, believe you have the right to use physical force against another person to make your ideology happen, okay, that's not anarchism, that's authoritarianism. So that's you're insane. An authoritarian leftist.
It's insane. I can't stand the idea that you hear every now and again that free speech is all good, but these Nazis, that talking about Nazi shit, which fucking hardly any of them are. Like there's hardly any people going around saying I am a Nazi. It's there.
Yeah, no. Like even I think I don't pay a whole lot of attention to Richard Spencer because I think the media props him up way too much. But I think he even said at one point when it was that video where he got punched in the face, said Nazis hate him. And I don't know a whole lot about it, but I can say that at the time someone was posting quotes from Richard Spencer. And I think in the stream he just did with like Sargon and Worski, he said something like he understands why Jewish people want their ethno state with Israel. And yes, Nazis don't like that. Like actual Nazis, people who actually believed in what like Nazi Germany was doing. They don't like the idea of a Jewish ethno state. They don't like Israel. So Spencer is, there's certainly an overlap with neo-Nazis and people like Spencer, but it doesn't mean they're the same group, and it doesn't mean that they agree on everything. So people like to say Spencer's a Nazi, and I'm like, we have to get into the nuance of things. One way I describe it to people is if you're on the left and you're looking across the street at the right, and the first person you see is Richard Spencer, but then even to the further, right, or even behind him is a bunch of like actual National Socialist neo-Nazis. All they see is one crowd of people. And when you actually walk up to the right and actually decide to go and talk to these people, you realize they're not all Nazis. In fact, the Nazis only make up a small portion. It's a better example. In Boston, during the free speech rally in May, I was talking to this Democratic socialist, and he pointed out that the right was all racist, and he pointed to one guy with a Confederate flag. He goes, see, that guy's got a Confederate flag. That's racist. They're all racist. And I was like, okay, like you've got a guy over here with a Soviet flag. Are you all Soviet communists? And he was like, oh, we don't have that flag. That's not what we represent. And I said, yeah, you do. Look. And I pointed. I was like, there's a guy right there, the Soviet flag. He's not with us. Exactly. It's exactly what he did. He's like, no. That guy is not with us. And I was like, but do you understand? Over there, they see that flag and assume all of you believe in communism and what the Soviet Union did. And I was like, you have to understand that as bad as you view the Confederate flag, historically, the Soviet flag is worse. The Confederates, yes, people look at that, they think racism and slavery, and that is certainly bad. But the what is it, the Holodomor or
Holodomor, Ukraine, yeah.
Right. Just the man-made famine which killed, I think, just all the deaths from communism. They look at that and they're like, wow, that's really bad. And so when you look over and see one Confederate flag and assume they're all Confederates or all pro-Confederacy, like you need to realize you're in the exact same boat. And the truth is, if people were more willing to walk across and ask somebody, you know what happened when I walked over to the right wing side, as they described it? They were flat out. I can't remember who it was. I think it was one of the Oath Keepers. Was like, oh no, man, I don't like that they got a Confederate flag. But hey, man, free speech. If they want to come and that's what they believe, they're allowed to do it. And I flat out say, like, you realize though that they're going to see you and think you're all pro-Confederate, and they're like, yeah, that's what sucks. But hey, man, that's free speech. People are allowed to do it.
What are you going to do? What are you going to take his flag off him?
Yeah.
Were you in Charlottesville? Did you cover that?
No. No, you know, it's there were a bunch of events put on by Spencer and the alt-right, and you know, honestly, they've never been noteworthy. For the most part, there was one, you know, they went to Charlottesville, I think, before and did a Tiki Torch march, and there was like one journalist covering it.
Mm.
The only reason anyone showed up to Charlottesville was because the media made sure it happened. The media kept hyping it up, kept telling everybody the Nazis are coming, and this riles everybody up. And you can actually look at these photos of when they did their march, you know, before, like the first time they did it, nothing happened, nobody cared. There's like one photo of them holding torches. Mm. Instead, we get street battles. And now we know the police actively screwed everything up, forced these groups to fight essentially through bad policing and negligence, and then never did anything to stop it. So, I mean, the whole thing just, oh God, it's so annoying. You know,
but when I looked at the footage of the you know, the big rally, like I know it's only footage, it's only from sort of one perspective at a time, but I think I only counted like 6 or 7, you know, Nazi flags, like, you know, swastika flags.
I didn't even know. I didn't even know there was. I thought there was only one. There was that one guy.
Maybe it was the same a few times.
But you can also see the flag has creases in it, like he just bought it. You know, wherever the hell he bought it from. So I don't think, you know. Where
would you buy that flag?
I don't even know. Yeah, but you know what, man? Hey, these look. You have these people who go out yelling the Nazi slogan, "Hail Victory," and it's like, what do you think people are going to believe if you go around yelling that? You know, and they're going to call you a bunch of neo-Nazis, and hey, you reap what you sow. You know, unfortunately, I feel bad for I know that a lot of people who were just, you know, new right, not alt right, not white nationalists, civic nationalists showed up, not realizing what it was, and they all get branded that way, and that's, you know. But you know what, man? Let me tell you a story. In Chicago, I don't know if you're familiar with super heroin. I think fentanyl is what it's called.
What is super heroin?
Yeah. So in Chicago, there was something like a handful of deaths from people overdosing on super heroin. They were calling it on the news.
And super heroin? Did you say? Fuck.
Yeah, super heroin. It's like 16 times more potent. I don't know exactly, but this is a funny story, and it's one of the reasons I hate the media. Just like, yeah. They started reporting about people dying from overdosing on super heroin. And then they said the deaths occurred around the area of, you know, 63rd and South California, where people believe, or the police believe, people are purchasing this heroin. And guess what happened like 2 days later?
What's that?
16 deaths from super heroin, because the news broadcast the location of where you can buy it. So people went to go look for it. And that's basically what happens with things like Charlottesville. The media hypes it up, acting like it's the apocalypse, and then riles everybody up, and then everyone shows up. And if the media just didn't give so much airtime to things that weren't so important, it wouldn't matter. Instead, they convince everybody that this is it. It becomes true. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, and then you end up with someone dying and street battles.
Did they get rid of this super heroin, or is there still some around? Where can I buy it?
Oh no, I think it's worse now. I think it's fentanyl. I'm not entirely sure. Right. But I know that there's even more potent opiates now. It's like a big problem in Canada. I'm trying to think of what it's called. It's got like some like 2 letters and a number. It's like ridiculously potent stuff that's like killing people like crazy. But
isn't crack and amphetamines and that sort of thing a worse problem than like heroin?
I don't know. I guess it depends on your perspective. You know, Flocka was really big for a little while, and then people go insane.
Oh, that is so fucking scary. I watched a couple of documentaries on that about people dosing on Flocka down in Florida. It was fun.
Yeah, but Florida, I don't know if that's the drug or just Florida.
Like, they're just insane. It's just insane enough to eat people's faces off anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, you know, they first said that guy was on bath salts, and then it turns out he wasn't. He was just a crazy dude who ate a face. So it's like, I don't know. Maybe he was on bath salts. I have no idea. But Florida is a generally crazy place in general. Like, I don't know. You know, I think
is bath salts. Is that the same as Flocka, or is that literally?
No. Yeah, Flocka's different. I don't know a whole lot about Flocka, but bath salts, it's just like a vague term that has. I think, you know, honestly, I don't know a lot about bath salts. I think it's some kind of methamphetamine. What I do know is that bath salts and plant food are designer drugs, so they could be a bunch of different things. You know, basically what people do is They order drugs from China, like legit drugs from China, and then they synthesize them into a legal compound. So a lot of jurisdictions are creating laws that no longer say like cocaine is illegal. Now it says like drugs of this variety are illegal, which is vague, you know. But
yeah, because they used to do it by it's sort of like molecular structure or something, and then they could just alter it a little bit.
Yeah, you know, but like, let's be real. People have been arrested for having laundry soap in their car because the cops don't know the difference. And then you still get to spend a couple of days in jail and go through court until the cops figure out it wasn't really Coke. So if you've got, you know, some kind of designer drug that's not illegal, yeah, sure, the cops are going to see it. They're going to taste it or whatever and be like, we don't care what it is. You're getting arrested anyway, and we'll figure it out in the lab. And, you know, it's like having drugs are drugs. You know,
but I mean, the way they were sort of skirting the punishment was, I mean, fair enough. You're going to get arrested. You're going to get that initial drama. But I mean, as far as convicting you in a court, I mean, it's not an illegal drug. It's not an illegal drug. Simple.
Yeah, man. Everything's it's the law can't keep up with how much everything's changing now, and I think for a while. Drugs were a big issue because designer drugs were hitting the streets and the law, it wasn't illegal. But now, one of the reasons I'm a bit I guess dismal looking at the future is YouTube censorship, Facebook censorship, Twitter censorship. And there's like, how do we deal with that? Do we tell, there's some people arguing that we should make Facebook like a public utility or something to stop the censorship.
Public square. What do you think? What are your thoughts on that? I mean, there's... Part of it does.
I don't know, man.
A lot of it makes sense, but I mean, but you're then impinging on the rights of businesses to trade the way they want.
You know, I think when you look at Twitter, I don't think Twitter can survive on its own. I think Twitter almost is an informational utility. It's a question of, do we want to nationalize the platform because it's so popular? It can't support itself. You know, the corporate headquarters shrunk. They let a bunch of people off, and they lose money left and right. Their stock has been volatile. I don't know where they're at now, but I know that they've been in dire straits. Their growth isn't so good. But it's where the conversation happens. So I think the censorship argument isn't necessarily the most important one. The most important one is Twitter valuable to society? And if the answer is yes, okay, then we should deal with political censorship and granting free speech. But we also need to realize
the answer is obviously yes. It's where the conversation does happen.
So if it's that important, then do we want to subsidize it? Do we want to mandate a portion of taxes to making sure this platform continues to exist? That's the more important argument to me. Should Twitter exist? And if it should, it needs to be supported because it's dying.
That's the other thing. I mean, does it fall on just America? I mean, it's used all over the world.
Yeah.
It's
exactly
the same utility in Australia or any country. So it's
it's
a deep rabbit hole.
Yeah, whenever I talk to like anarcho-capitalists, people who are like free market libertarians, the reason I consider myself center left is I believe. I'll say this first. Generally, the left and the right refers to, on the left, they believe in controlling hierarchies, and the right believes in letting hierarchies exist. And that's why people refer to white nationalists as right, as well as free market capitalists, because rooted in both ideologies is the idea that natural hierarchies should be allowed to form. It doesn't mean they agree on everything. And the left, be it socialists or social justice warriors, want to control how these systems work. I lean a little bit to the left because if you allow markets just do whatever they want, you end up with, fake news. Literally, you have people who make fake news up for their little blogs, but then you end up with these news organizations like the Washington Post, which I can confirm on more than one occasion has posted fake news and refused to correct it. And they're supported because everyone just believes they're real. And that's a problem, that they can literally put out fake news that has a dramatic impact on the world. And I guess the only issue is, do we regulate speech? And I don't agree with that. So that's the big challenge. As long as the market is allowed to do what it wants and people have a right to speak freely, you will see major publications put out total BS, and there's nothing we can do about it. And I guess that's just the way it's going to be, because I certainly don't want to regulate speech, or don't think it should be. So how do we combat that stuff?
Someone said, just back on the Twitter thing, someone made a good analogy I saw a while ago where you're like on the public square question with Twitter. It's like, imagine if back in the 40s or 50s, the phone company. Imagine if there was someone sitting on the the interchange end of the phone line, listening to you talk to your friend, and you say something inappropriate, so they fucking ban your phone line.
Yeah, and that's. But I think the challenge is people used to go to, honestly, back in the day, the public square was church. People would talk about things at church,
and public square,
yeah. Literally, there'd be events that were set up in the public. But because of the internet, people are, look, local news is dead. Every news outlet is trying to cover to an extent some kind of national story, but why go to your local news outlet, WBZY or whatever, when you can just go to the New York Times or the Washington Post or whatever? And so these local stories don't matter. So people in small towns don't really care to go to the town square anymore. They go on Twitter and they talk about national stuff. And then Twitter is a platform where, I think a better analogy would be there's like a park that gets built by some developer, and people start gathering there and having meetings to discuss the election. And then the guy who, built the park shows up and says, you're not allowed to speak, and you're not allowed to speak because your opinions offend me. And everyone just says, well, it's his property, he has a right to do it. And then what ends up happening, if that's the public space, there has to be some kind of protection. I think the challenge is Twitter needs advertising. In order to survive, advertisers have to buy on Twitter. It's failing. It's doing miserably. In which case, Twitter says, how do we make sure advertisers aren't scared? We make sure we ban anything that's offensive. Advertisers don't care if you say kill all white people. They just do not care. But if you say disparaging things about minorities, they do care. They're scared of the left. One of the things that people need to realize, the far right does not organize destructive campaigns to, look, people on the right certainly have killed people. There's been white terrorism, whatever people want to call it. It certainly exists. But there's not large organized actions where they smear you and destroy your livelihood. Certainly, there are some instances where people on the right have doxed individuals and have called in swatting and things like that. But the left will boycott an entire country. The left will get someone on late night television to stand up and say guns should be controlled and things like this. And advertisers are scared of that. Advertisers do not fear the right because the right will not try to destroy them. The right will be like, well, they have a right to say what they want and I just won't buy from them. Well, the left will make up lies about you. I don't want to blanket as like the left and the right, but this is the reality. The social justice activists can say whatever they want and it terrifies companies. The right, look, when Twitter attacks people who are considered right, nobody bats an eye other than the right. If they ban someone on the left, everyone freaks out, and then you get massive celebrities with huge reach damaging the brand. So as long as the left is willing to bash people over the head with bike locks, throw explosives, and I think one way to look at it is, in my opinion, what we associate with the left is more frequently engaging in deceptive and damaging practices. Although, when you look at the right, you're more likely to have crazy lone gunmen. Certainly, there are less instances of the crazy lone gunmen, and the left does have their instances of crazy lone gunmen as well. But for whatever you hear these stories about I don't want to say their names, but like the South Carolina shooting and other things like that, and you hear these stories about like white male terrorism, and it dominates the news story. When in reality, a lot of the smaller, more prevalent instances of violence are low-level skirmishes coming from Antifa, running through the streets of DC on J20, smashing windows, flipping things over. The police are trying to combat that. That scares brands. And so the brands are going to bend over backwards to make sure celebrities and activists leave them alone. And they absolutely do not care about conservatives.
Yeah, well, conservatives don't, like you said, they don't tend to boycott. They don't mass boycott things like the left tend to. Hey Tim, I've got some questions here for you. There's a whole bunch here, but we'll get through the ones sort of directed at you, or sort of more general ones. What are your thoughts on hydraulic? He says fracturing, but I think he means fracking.
On fracking? Well, relatively neutral. And I think what people need to realize is that I told people, if you believe in American exceptionalism and you believe that, you want to live comfortably in America and America, might is right or whatever, Hillary Clinton was your candidate. She certainly was going to rule with an iron fist, and there was going to be war, and there was going to be, wars for oil and conflict and things like that. Fracking makes America wealthy. Fracking is damaging. I believe there's like many reports say that fracking causes earthquakes, it pollutes groundwater, and it's damaging to some local communities. And there's a lot of problems associated with it. But it also gives Americans access to more fossil fuels and natural gas, allowing us to become one of the, I believe we produce more fossil fuels than anybody else now. And that makes us wealthy. So it's a question of, do you care about the environment? Do you believe that we should be, that we have a right to cause damage in certain areas if it benefits us in the long run? The most important thing I tell people is that there's a reason why there's reluctance to move over to renewable energies, and it's because the world isn't unified. A lot of activists on the left in the United States don't realize that there are threats outside of the US. They don't know that China is building the Nicaraguan canal to compete with the Panama Canal. They don't know that China is doing oil exploration in South America and Africa, and that their economy is growing faster than ours and is likely going to become the biggest economy in the world. And that will cause problems with our culture and the likelihood that our culture survives. So one thing I ask people on the left, would you mind living in mainland China under their rules right now? And most of them say absolutely not. Okay. One of the reasons why companies in the US and the US government are reluctant to produce renewable energies is that the yield, the return on energy investment from renewables is significantly less than fossil fuels. Nuclear energy has the highest energy return on investment, but activists on the left refuse to allow this kind of development and research into nuclear energy. So what's our choice? Keep on keeping on. If we move to a lower yield, that means our economy could potentially stagnate. If we have less energy to attribute to growth, then China will continue to grow faster than us. They will continue to dominate new territories. And people like to talk about white imperialism and colonialism. Well, they're ignoring China, which has significantly more people than we do. And more people speak Mandarin. The future will be Chinese. And US interests don't want to live under the influence of a Chinese government. People in the US, military industrial complex, whatever you want to call it, politicians, want to keep American ideals on top. So they're going to do whatever it takes to compete and make sure our culture can grow faster than Chinese culture. I know I'm kind of simplifying things. There's a lot of other things to consider. There's more countries than just China. We've got, NATO and Western powers. You've got BRICS, the BRICS economies. Ultimately, the idea is it's such a complicated picture. There's a lot of activists who say fracking, stop it outright, and Freudian slip. And some people are just like, no military intervention, and just America be American and stop worrying about other countries. And then some other power, most likely China, will essentially take over the world in the way the United States technically did by having so much influence and power. And if you want to, Americans don't realize just how wealthy they are. They really don't. Even these activists who are on the left preaching, they just do not realize. I have been to some of these countries, and I am absolutely grateful to live in America. Yeah. When I was younger, I was very critical of America, and there's a lot of things to criticize America over. But then you go to some of these countries where, Turkey, for instance, where they lock up all the journalists, where unless you have a salary, you're not a real journalist. There are some places that are truly terrifying. And I think too many activists who are opposed to American establishment practices, they don't have enough experience with foreign policy, and they're not concerned enough about what other countries are doing or will do if they're given the chance to do it. That being said, I still don't agree with like Americans going to war and all that stuff, but I'm getting off subject. Ultimately, when it comes to fracking, there's too much to consider, and I'm relatively neutral.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Longest answer to a simple question.
Yeah. But I was going to say, plus it was just fucking cool to hate George Bush. You would have listened to NoFX. They taught us to hate George Bush.
Oh yeah, yeah.
What else have we got? Just one other thing I was going to bring up. Have you seen the what was it called? There's a group going around. They've made this like fucking infomercial thing. It's fucking, it sends shivers up your spine. It's called I think it's called One World Democracy. I'll find a link to it and send it to you. It's fucked. It sees people literally calling for a one world democracy, saying that they can set up a one person, one vote system through through the like, BitTorrent type thing. What's the thing?
Yeah.
BitTorrent?
Just like torrenting in general, or what do you mean?
Yeah, it's got something to do with that. But it's fucking scary. It's like it looks like it's
Well,
a Zorospec type thing. Like it's fucking.
Look, one world government's going to happen whether you like it or not.
Yeah, but how's it going to happen? I mean, there's no satisfactory solution as to how it's going to happen. It's all fucked. It's all how we get there is all fucked.
Culture, man, I went to Iceland, and you know what they had right there in downtown? They had a Hard Rock.
Went to the Cock Museum, man.
I did. But downtown they had a Hard Rock Cafe. I went to the Bahamas, and what did I find? A Gucci, a Hard Rock Cafe, a Starbucks. Culture, American culture dominates the world. There are still some places, small towns in some countries where you can see legitimate culture, but I think in 50 to 100 years, it's like McDonald's. Just we're gonna have it's gonna be like one ISP. It's gonna be like the internet, and it's gonna be a public utility. There's gonna be one world government. I know a lot of the ANCAPs, libertarians, and conspiracy theorists look at these quotes. I can't remember who it was from. I think it was Rothschild who said that there will be a one world government and there's nothing anyone can do to stop it.
Yeah, but it's not necessarily going to be an American one, is it? I mean, it's just as likely to be a Chinese one.
Right. That's what's scary. So, what I tell people is you better damn well believe that if America loses influence to China and China ends up being the dominating culture, you will not be a very happy person. Look what goes on with, what gutter oil is?
No.
Gutter oil is when people in China go into the sewer lines and scoop up refuse, filter out the garbage, boil the oil, and use that to cook street food.
As in shit.
I think it might be shit, but I know it's like chemical waste and like street runoff. They literally shovel it out of like garbage vents in like the streets.
And so what do they do?
Gutter oil.
What do they do? They distill it or something? How do you?
Yeah, they filter out the nasty bits and then boil it and then reuse it. And who knows what it is, So that's gutter oil. They say like when you go to China, don't eat street food because you might get really sick. You might be eating like motor oil. Who knows what? It's like literally from the streets. Yeah, look at Foxconn, right? You had people walking off the roof committing suicide because the conditions were so terrifying.
What was Foxconn? What's Foxconn?
That's where they make the iPhone, among other computer parts.
Yeah.
And so people went up on the roof and single file walked to their deaths. And you know what Foxconn's solution was? They put suicide nets around the building. So it's like, yeah, they're going to kill themselves. Just put up nets, we'll catch them. China can be really bad. I mean, look at the Olympics. When they did the Olympics all those years ago, they diverted a bunch of water from the farms in the small towns to the big cities for Olympic guests, and a bunch of farmers were just put out. I don't think that's a world people want to live in. No. Certainly America has its problems. But I got to say, I've been to countries where there's no upward mobility. And it really bums me out when you hear people on the left say the American dream is dead. And I'm like, no, the American dream is not dead. The American dream was never to grow up to grow up in the United States, take out loans, go to college, and then get a job. The American dream was that you could start from nothing, and if you worked really, really hard, there was a way for you to live comfortably. You see Indian migrants and Chinese migrants come to the US and they open Chinese restaurants or a Subway. I know that's kind of a stereotype, but they really do this. And they bust their asses, they work really hard, and then all of a sudden, I worked for American Airlines. There was a Filipino guy. He worked 16 hours a day every day until he was legally required to take a day off, and he hated taking days off. Every single cent put his kids in college, so that that's the American dream. You come from the Philippines, a place that's relatively poor, and you work really, really hard nonstop, and you've created a better life for your children. And now they have the American dream. That's the American dream. It was never to become some wealthy individual living in a skyscraper in Midtown Manhattan. Certainly, there's aspects of the American dream where you can invent the light bulb and become a billionaire. But for the most part, it's that if you bust your ass, you can succeed in this country. Yeah. I'm a high school dropout. I grew up on the south side of Chicago in gang territory. My friends joined gangs. They did drugs. A couple people overdosed and are dead. And I was able to move out, and now I guess you could call me successful. Yeah. That's the American dream, that you can be a gutter kid from the south side. Shane Smith in Vice, whatever your opinion is on Vice, he was a street punk in Montreal. And now he's a wealthy, successful billionaire in the United States. So The American dream exists. You know,
Out of interest,
plain and
how many days do you have to work in America till you have to take a fucking day off? What is there a number?
I think it was every 2 weeks. You had to take every 13 days. The 14th they had to be a day off. Because what he was doing was with American Airlines, you can give your shifts away. They have a system where you can log in and someone can just take your day from you. And so he would just everybody give me all of your shifts, and he would show up at 5:30 in the morning for the start of the shift, and his shift would end around 10:30 at night. And sometimes he would just sleep in the airport in like the bag room, and then they actually have showers. It was at Chicago O'Hare. They have showers, so he would just be there. He'd live there, and then once every like 2 weeks he'd go home to see his family, and all of that money was going into college accounts for his kids who were in I think they were in high school. And that guy was like, could you imagine, you know, I hate to rag on millennials, but there's a lot of kids who live in New York City who go to college living on, student loans. They waste their money at bars, go partying with their friends, and they got to pay these loans back. And then they complain that the government should forgive their loans. And it's kind of offensive to me. I met somebody who went to like film school, had like $100,000 in debt, and then was telling me how they're like, the government should forgive student loans. They're so predatory. And I was like,
that's ridiculous. So why the fuck should anyone forgive any loan? That's fucking insane.
There are certain aspects I understand that are considered predatory, sure. But I said, how many years were you in school? And she's like, 6. And I'm like, so let me get this straight. For 6 years, you produced nothing of value for society. Your life was subsidized. You had your own dorm and then apartment. You went out to bars on the weekends with your friends, and you literally produced nothing. Now you have to pay that money back because someone invested in you, and you want the government to just forgive you. Okay, while you were spending 6 years in school, which I understand isn't, all Skittles and rainbows, there's work involved. I was lifting bags at an airport, making substantial, like making no money, making like $10 an hour, actually doing something that helps facilitate society. And I understand there is value in college, and that when you get out, you're expected to do something that benefits society. But why should you be allowed to live for free and get a degree and then have someone else, the taxpayer, pay for it? That blows my mind that people think. I knew a guy who gave some of his loan money away. He was just like, oh, whatever. I've got $7,000 in the bank, so I lent $1,000 to my friend. And I'm like,
it was a student, like an education loan.
Yeah. Because apparently,
I didn't think you actually got the money. I sort of assumed it would be a direct thing with the school.
I had one friend who was going to be a translator, and I was hanging out with her, and she was like, I think she's like, I can allocate about $100 for the bar tonight. And I was like, you have $100? I was like 19. I was like, you have $100 to go to the bar? She's like, yeah. And I was like, damn. I was like, what, do your parents give you money? She's like, no, I have loan money. And I was like, what? Like, you what? And then, it's just, these are people who there's like Bernie Sanders saying he wants to make college free and all that stuff. It's like, dude, there's no such thing as free. There's so many of the, Bernie is as close as I've gotten to voting, but I'm still not a big fan of Bernie because I thought he was deceptive.
But wasn't he talking about like fucking 80% income tax and shit?
I don't know about 80, but I know that some of the stuff he was saying was just misleading, and there's a reason why young people wanted to vote for him and older people didn't. I was at a protest at 30 Rock in New York City. It's the big NBC tower. Yeah. And I was talking, there's some people screaming like, no, Trump. This was before the election, before Hillary got confirmed as the candidate. And I was talking to some guy, and I was like, look, Bernie's is probably as close as I'll get if he gets the nomination, but I'm not a big fan of Bernie because I think he's deceptive. And they asked me what I meant. I said, well, look, he's talking about giving, free college to everybody by increasing capital gains. And I was like, and that's just a bit misleading. And this one of the protesters is like, what do you mean it's misleading? We could make $75 billion if we increase taxes on Wall Street. And I was like, okay, what do you mean increase taxes on Wall Street? He's like, like these people who like are just making money, like sitting around doing nothing, like we need to tax them. And I was like, okay, what people are you referring to? Are you talking about like mutual funds? Are you talking about like brokers, like wealth management? Like specifically, what are you referring to? I was like, I think you're talking about capital gains taxes, right? You're talking about people who invest and then see a return off the stocks. He's like, yeah, that. I'm like, okay. So just to clarify, you are saying that we should increase the capital gains tax and that will generate revenue. Is that what you mean by taxing Wall Street? And he's like, for sure. I'm like, okay, listen, increasing taxes does not guarantee an increase in tax revenue because it could impact trade volume. And young people don't understand this. So one of the examples I give people, in Chicago, Cook County, which is the main county of Chicago, then you have DuPage County, which is to the west of Chicago. Cook County increased their sales tax in an effort to increase tax revenue. Here's what happened. A bunch of shops like Lowe's and Home Depot shut down and moved 5 or so miles down the road and reopened in DuPage. A friend of mine, his dad is a contractor. And I asked him, why would they shut their store down and spend millions to reopen, a few miles down the road? And he said, if I have to put in an order for tens of thousands of dollars, a small percentage increase in taxes is a huge cut of my potential revenue. If I have a contract to build something, a park, a building, and it's $200,000, and I have to give an extra % of that, that comes out to a decent amount of money I could save by simply driving a few miles. I will. What ends up happening? People stop buying things in Cook County and the tax revenue goes down. If you increase the taxes, you impact volume, in which case, if less people start trading, then you make less money. So there's no guarantee that by increasing capital gains, you will generate $75 billion to pay for free college. I just found that to be a bit misleading. Now, it very well could work. I don't know, but I think young people don't understand the market, and then they just assume it's true.
Oh, no doubt. Do they really set sales tax by it was sales tax, or your example?
Yeah, sales tax
by county.
Yep. Yeah. So Cook County has one of the highest sales tax in the country. I don't think it's the highest, but it's something like 9%, I think. And so you have to consider, if they increase the tax, I think it was a 0.075 increase, or it was a 0.75% increase. That means nothing if you're buying a candy bar, but it means everything if you're buying hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of lumber. Yeah. And look, if I have to drive an extra 20 minutes to buy my lumber and I save $2,000, I'm gonna do it, and that's what people,
Yeah, that's weird. Ours is just set countrywide. Ours is the same rate all over the country.
Yeah,
seems bizarre to do it by county
and by state. I mean, this New York City has an income tax, which is one of the reasons I don't actually live in New York City proper. I don't go there enough. I think I was there 20 days last year. So it's do I want to pay an extra 4% income tax to live in this city? And right now I live in New Jersey, which is part of the New York Metro, but just on the other side of the river, and I don't have to worry about those taxes. So
hang on a second. You pay a state income tax and a federal one. They're two separate bills.
Yes. And if you live in New York, you pay state, city, and federal. City, state, federal. Some states don't have income taxes, like Florida. So if you live in Florida, you only pay federal income tax. And that's why everybody likes retiring to Florida. There's a lot of retirement communities. What people do is they will put their pre-taxed income into a retirement account. And then the idea is, you put into a retirement account, and then when you retire and take that money out, you got to pay your income tax on it. They move to Florida where there's no state income tax, and they save money. Yeah. So U.S. is a big place.
Yeah, that seems really, really fucking complicated, having a state, a city, and a federal income tax.
Yep, it is really complicated. And most businesses, I don't know about most, but a lot of businesses are filed in Delaware, even if you don't live in Delaware. Tons of media companies are filed in Delaware because Delaware is the cheapest and easiest to run a business. So people just claim they get a PO box and then run their business from there, even if you live in New York.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else we got here?
You got any more questions? Ooh, allergies.
Tim, do you think people will notice the increase in their take-home pay from taxes, or that the African-American unemployment rate is the lowest since the government has kept stats? Hang on a second, let's read that. Tim, do you think people will notice the increase in their take-home pay from taxes?
I don't think so. You know why income tax works in this country? Because they take your money beforehand and then you get a refund and everyone's super happy to get their money back, thinking it's free money, when in reality it was your money in the first place. Why
don't they just, why is the calculation so wrong that they've got to give everyone these massive refunds?
Yeah. Well, I'll put it this way. I did when I worked at Fusion, I did my taxes and I filed the same way I always have. And then I got a $7,000 tax bill next year and I had no idea why. And it's because I underpaid. And I was I have no idea. It's automatic. You just felt the thing and say I live alone. I claim myself. And then I got a huge bill from it. And that sucked. to like just
they're not very nice.
You know, so when you work for yourself, taxes suck. So this is why small businesses love tax reform, because at the end of the year, you do your taxes, claim your deductions and everything, and then you're like, great, I owe the government, period. You're going to owe the government. You're going to owe your taxes. Yeah. Whereas if you're an employee, you're like, I don't care because the government owes me, you know?
Yeah, yeah, because I mean, I assume it works the same. Your employer automatically takes just pay as you go taxes out.
And small businesses can do that too. Like I'm going to be setting something up like that, but knowing at the end of the year, like I've set aside money to pay my taxes, and there's like some things you got to pay quarterly. It's complicated, and I'm not an expert. I've probably screwed up a bit.
And you're still the mug handing over the cash. There's something nice about not actually handing it over. If you never see it, it's a bit better.
Yep. So I don't think people are going to notice a difference. It's going to be so small. People don't realize that. I don't know. Maybe I think families might notice it, because if you budget, you might be like, oh my God, we have an extra $100 this month. That's great. The average person, I think, is going to be like, I don't
know. Yeah. Madstalk91 says, Tim, I work for possibly the largest student loan forgiveness company, William D. Ford Act, expanded under Obama. So what's a student loan forgiveness company? What do they? I mean, how does that work?
I don't know. I assume they pay off someone's student loans. I guess I have no idea.
Well, that doesn't seem very profitable. It doesn't.
Yeah, I'm. Somebody in the chat said I'm starting to sound like a libertarian. And this is why I consider myself relatively centrist, because I certainly believe in doing hard work and being entitled to what you produce and all those things. But that's all. There's also tenets, like aspects of the left, that believe that. But it's just always so like to have these kids who, got loans and lived very comfortably off loans, while I was homeless a couple times from 18 after I turned 18, from like between 18 and 20. I was homeless. I was at one point slept in a park. I slept in a car while I was working at the airport, because when you're not getting subsidized, you have to figure it out. And being, a poor kid from the South Side, sometimes my option was like, if I don't have a car, I can't have a job because I have to drive to the airport. If I have a car, I can't get an apartment. I can't afford both. So I sleep in my car, and then I take showers at the airport. And that was short-lived, but it's something I dealt with. At the same time, I have kids going to school, learning absolutely nothing, doing drugs, popping Adderall, partying, having sex and drinking, and I absolutely resented them for it. I'm like, then when I'm 25 or so, and I see these kids being like, the government should pay off my loans, that's not fair. I'm like, while you were at that party in your dorm that the government paid for, that these loan companies that were subsidized by student loans, and you were like having food whenever you wanted and got to watch cable. I was sleeping in a park. Should the government give me money so that I didn't have to do that? You know what I mean? Like, why
reimburse me for my park days, motherfucker? You give me damages.
Why? So I student loan forgiveness. I think student loan reform, like we like figuring out how we solve this problem, because it's absolutely problematic to institutionalize people. To put people in, I think college is terrible, by the way. I think school in general is terrible. And obviously I'm biased because I didn't go to school and it worked out for me.
Well, some of the courses, the way the courses are going, yeah, absolutely. They're ridiculous.
But so look, I hired some people. There's somebody I knew who spoke multiple languages, had a master's degree, needed a job. And I said, I mean, the only opening we have is like remedial. It's an assistant job. But if you need a foot in the door, I can give you this job, and it doesn't pay very well. What ends up happening? Well, they don't know how to solve problems because they're institutionalized. You spend your entire life where a teacher tells you what to do and how to do it. When you go into the real world and your boss says, I need to hire some, like, imagine this. I had this person come to me and say, how do I do this job? And I said, I just need you to file the paperwork, and book travel. And they said, I don't know how to do that. I said, figure it out. And they were like, no, you have to tell me how to do it. And I said, no, this isn't school. I'm not educating you. You were hired to solve a problem, solve it. I'll be lenient, like take your time, figure it out. Let me know what you can figure out. And then, once you can do it, we're good. And no, it led to temper tantrums and refusals to do anything because they couldn't figure out the problem. It's, I'll put it this way. I try to explain to this person, if you were hired by a company to develop mobile apps, and they said, I need someone who can program apps. And you show up the next day saying, okay, how do I program? They'd be like, I don't know. I hired you to do that. And they say, well, you have to tell me how to do it. No. This isn't school. This is work. And I think that's what happens when you institutionalize people. they become drones.
Yeah.
You know, so my buddy ran a marketing company, and he hired some people, and he said college degrees are required. He said they couldn't solve any problems. He would getting angry calls from clients being like, this isn't working, what do I do? And when he told me a story about how he's in a meeting and he starts getting his phone's blowing up. One of his employees are like, hey man, this company we're working with screwed up, and now the system's like, you know, their Facebook is down, we don't know how to fix it. And he said, look, this is your job. You run their Facebook account, fix it. And he ended up firing them, rehiring. A couple weeks later, fired them, rehiring. A couple weeks later, fired them. And he said eventually he ran out of money. He said, look, I can't afford to hire again because I've been hiring and firing and it's not working. These people aren't doing the job. I'm losing money. So he said, I'm going to have to lower the amount I can pay. And college students are absolutely not willing to take a lower salary than what I offered. So I'm just going to have to hire some high school grads. Yeah, he ended up hiring 2 high school dropouts, people who moved to Los Angeles because they wanted to be actors. They had no experience. They had no training, no schooling. And he said, look, they're willing to work for $10 an hour. That's like almost half of what I was paying the college grads. I'll give him a shot. He goes out, does his errands, meetings, no phone calls. He comes back. Hey guys, how was it today? Like, oh, no problem. Yeah, one of the companies posted some BS to Facebook. We took care of it. They're happy. Everyone's happy. And he's like, oh, great. And he's like, for the next week, they never called him with a problem once. And what he said to me was, you know what he said, you know what I realized? The kids who went to college lived their entire lives being told exactly what to do and when to do it in an institution. And so when they encountered a real world problem, they were confused and scared and didn't know what to do. But he's like, these kids I hired just now, high school dropouts, are people who said, you know what? I know what I need to do. Screw school. I'm going to upend my life and move halfway across the country because this is what I think will solve the problem. They had the guts to take action and not worry about the consequences. Like, you know, there were real consequences, but they were willing to take that risk. So what ends up happening? They encounter a problem in the workplace and they say, I'll figure it out. I shouldn't bother my boss with this. And he's like, my God, they were the best employees. And then he expanded, and then he actually sold the company and made a profit. But he was like, from that point, he's like, I would never hire a college student again. They just can't solve anything.
You know, it does sort of seem to work that way. There's sort of spoon fed until you know, all of a sudden you're not being spoon fed anymore, and you don't know how.
And now there's the indoctrination. Now there's the social justice professor, you know, the guy who tweeted white genocide. And I was sitting in a cafe. God, where was I? I was sitting in a cafe in New York, and I was talking to another journalist about I'm going to start working on a documentary about free expression at colleges because we've reached that point.
That's interesting. Cool.
Yeah, so it's the plan is going to be, to the best extent possible, a vlog like we did with Sweden, where we're going to travel around the country and possibly Canada, maybe even Europe, interviewing people in this movement. Some people who are pro, like social justice warrior, whatever, and want to end hate speech, and then people who have dealt with the problems of hate speech, and just try and get at the core of it. And that's the next big plan. I kind of just lost my train of thought here, but
you're going to make a documentary.
Yeah. So, well, yeah, I don't know. I forgot where I was going with that. It happens, but that's basically the next big thing that I'm working on.
So that'll be a full length documentary.
Presumably, you know, we tried to do it with Sweden, but it's, you know, the main goal with Sweden was to produce the 2-week thing, and then we wanted to do a doc on it. But doing everything at the same time is a big challenge. This time, we're not gonna have like a set time frame to do it. So it might be, you know, 2 interviews in 1 week, and then something that's like a different news topic. Maybe Monday we interview a professor, and then Tuesday I just do a news story where I talk about, you know, something in politics. But then afterwards, I'm actually Emily is going to be fully dedicated 100% on just doing that. So I'm going to keep doing my thing. She's going to do that. I don't know how long it'll take, but that's the next big plan.
I look forward to it. Speaking of freedom of expression, you were the first one to pull out of the old Kilroy event.
Yeah.
Have you heard of what's been going on there? That's turned pretty
a little bit here and there. You know, one important thing that I like to bring up is that I don't consider myself part of like any community or culture or anything.
Oh, really? Yeah, I realize that.
So a lot of the people involved with Kilroy were making endless videos about Kilroy because their videos are really about their culture. And I did a video about it. I tweeted about it, and everyone was like clamoring. So I said, okay, I'll do a video about it. Then everyone started clamoring. So I said, okay, I'll do one more live stream where I can just hash it all out and answer questions. And that was the end of it. I'm not going to do another video about it. Sargon asked me to do an interview, so I did. But for the most part, the videos I do will be focused on bigger picture stuff and won't be like focused on the smaller community.
Yeah, no,
So
that's fair enough. I was just going to ask though.
Yeah.
I mean, you've obviously spoken at a lot of events like that. I mean, what's usually the what's the norm in terms of agreements? Do they usually ask you to sign an agreement? Is there usually NDAs, that sort of thing?
Nothing.
Really?
Absolutely nothing. So I spoke at an event literally the week that was all happening. I spoke at an event about technology. The only agreement I signed was rights to the recording. So they said, hey, we're going to record this speech and then we're going to broadcast it. Can you sign this saying that you're okay with us doing that? I said, yes, that's it. I showed up on the spot. I could have said no. And they still had me booked and confirmed. It was a paid gig. I've never signed an NDA for a speaking event. I've never signed an appearance contract or anything like that. I think, look, I think the whole thing was deceptive, in my opinion. I don't want to get sued by these people because they are litigious, I believe, if they're going to have people sign these documents. But I was on a phone call with Dave, with Sargon, and with Base Mama and whoever else. I don't know who this woman is. Maybe it was Sister Danger. I'm not sure. Where they flat out said, look, these contracts are about making sure our employees don't, like go into a room and take a photo of somebody and then try and sell that photo to somebody else. And I was like, okay, then why are you sending it to me? And they said, well, because you're considered an employee. And Sargon was like, okay, no, I'm not okay with that. I'm not going to be an employee. They flat out said the point of the NDA non-compete was to prevent us from producing content. That's a little, I'll just tone it down a little bit, from taking photos or producing media that they couldn't control. They flat out said, if someone takes like a video and posts it, we want to be able to like review these things. And I was like, yeah. So that was it. And then when Dave came out the next day with his video where, quote, he said, everything that Based Mama wanted was in the interest of people's safety, I got really, really pissed. And I messaged him and I was like, dude, are you kidding me? You were on the same call as me. That's not true. NDAs do not protect people's safety. Like, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that he said that. So I'm rather perturbed with him and also the rest of them. Because that's, I hate fake news. I hate manipulators. I just wish people could just, sit back, put their hands on them and be like, like, I'll be honest, like they were trying to control IP and they were worried. So that's what they did. And, at least they're being honest about it. But that's not what happened. They were manipulative the whole time. And then Dave doubled down on the safety narrative. And I was like, whatever, man, that pissed me off. And I was like, I don't, but that's basically why Sargon was like, let's do a video and talk about what happened because, I absolutely just can't stand when people lie. I understand, white lies exist and everything, but I really, really hate bad faith arguments and manipulation. I just really, really hate it.
Yeah, but a white lie is generally a lie that is for someone's benefit. That's not calling your missus fat. It's not fucking.
A white lie is typically to protect someone else.
Yeah.
In this case, they were lying to protect themselves.
Yeah.
And I was talking to Sargon about it. I think this is in the video where he was like, Sargon said something like, hey, we're capitalists here. They could have just came out and said, hey, look, we want to produce media at this event, and we preferred if people didn't, produce content based off of the events we're setting up. So we think it would be, we want, like, if they're just honest about the intention, a lot of people would have been like, oh, that's totally cool. I understand that. A lot of events prevent filming without contracts and everything. That happens. So they could have been honest about it. Instead, the most offensive thing was that they played the safety narrative. And then one of the people involved in the event started making up lies about me, saying that they asked me not to dox people and I refused. I'm like, what?
Yeah, that backlash you got from the one of the ex-Muslims, that was.
I ignore it, but it's like, out of all the people who is the least likely to dox somebody, it's me. It's the journalist. Like, I have sources that I have never exposed or compromised. I have had conversations that would make people's skin peel off how terrifying some of the things that are happening in the world is, that I can't report because I can't confirm on the record. But rest assured, there are things happening in this world that are terrifying. And I will never compromise, these sources. I will never, if someone says off the record, it is. Because if you violate that trust, then when if you get somebody who comes to you and says, look, man, here's what's happening, but you can't report this yet, you say, okay. Because if you go out then and say, I was told by this person, they'll just deny it. And then you have no one on the record and no one will believe you. Further, if you violate their trust, you are burning your source, and the likelihood that important information can be reported in the future is minimal. You need to have trust, and you need to respect the privacy of individuals. In which case, I'm the last person who would ever dox anybody. But that's the lie they put. That's the lie they'll push out because it protects them, protects their event.
Yeah. Hey, do you know Jeremy, the bloke who runs the Quartering channel? Or
I know of him. I've been I was talking to my buddy just recently about this because I got a bunch of, I play Magic, and a bunch of my buddies do, and so we were just talking about it.
I've got him. I was talking to him about possibly coming on because he's been, as you know, he's been going through some pretty turbulent times. Do you mind if we get him on to have a
do it? Yeah, do it.
No worries. I'll just send you a link. So tell us, just while I'm doing that, tell us about you actually got like physically attacked by some Antifa members a few months ago, didn't you?
Which one was this? I've been attacked.
Which one was this? What is that?
Yeah, it happens all the time.
Fuck.
That's why there's this Antifa woman on Twitter, and she was tweeting about how like anarchists believe in like mutual decision making and all that stuff, and I said, can you be an anarchist and believe in violence against other people? And then she's like, started saying things that like I'm a right-wing collaborator, and I'm like, what? Like, there's nothing wrong with being left or right wing. You can be a left or right wing collaborator. I don't understand it's supposed to be an insult. It's like
right wing's the bad one, isn't it? That's
yeah. I'm like, sure, I'm left wing, and I'll do collabs with right wing people. Sure. Like, I don't understand. Anyway, she obviously is not going to answer it because, of course, there are people on the right who have committed acts of violence. The guy in Charlottesville, rammed into a bunch of people, and it's widely believed it was intentional. Sure, there's some people who believe that it was more like a panic moment. The police initially said he panicked, but
why would you do that intentionally? I mean, unless he was just insane, I don't see why you would.
People commit murder. It's just a fact. People get angry and they stab people. People get angry, they shoot people. So there's a guy in a car, a big crowd of people. Someone whacked his car. Maybe he got pissed and just hit the gas. Said, "Fuck it."
Yeah,
but I understand there's a decent amount of people that believe that he panicked. And one of the things is the police initially said they believed he panicked too. And if you watch the video, you see someone strikes his car with a bat before he speeds up. So he could, never attribute to malice that which is easily explained by incompetence. That being said, I think for that incident, we take it at face value. It's a guy who took a car and rammed a bunch of people. This stuff happens, But the point is that I don't bring this up to get into that. I bring it up because we see these acts of violence from people on the right, but we also see acts of violence. It's like the left is violent too. That guy who went to the baseball game, and I don't know if you remember this, he shot a bunch of politicians he showed up with a rifle. This stuff, it happens. Antifa going around DC and smashing windows and starting fires, torching the limo of a Muslim migrant. It's like to act like violence is unique to one political wing is just totally disingenuous. And that's what these people do. You can talk to someone like, I don't necessarily want to imply that Paul Joseph Watson is like right wing or anything, but he does say conservatism is the new counterculture. So let's just call him a conservative.
He's pretty fucking right wing.
But he will flat out. He's the kind of person who's going to be like, oh, of course, people on the right are violent, and so are people on the left. And you're like, yep, that's true. And that's why so many people like following him. But then people on the left are like, no, the real terrorists are the right. And you're like, it blows my mind that you see these stories over and over again that they use this assumptive language to make it seem like there are these stories where it's like, majority of the terrorism in 2018 was like white men. And it's like, whoa. Yes, in specific areas. Like you can say in the United States, majority of terrorism was like white men, which is actually a bit misleading. But sure, when you say majority of terrorism, yes, like the overwhelming majority is Islamic terrorism and the overwhelming majority is in the Middle East. But it's what they do. Are you familiar with the dihydrogen monoxide prank?
No.
Where you tell someone that dihydrogen monoxide causes cancer, or it's found in cancer cells, it corrodes metal, and we need to ban it. And everyone goes, oh my God, that sounds crazy. And then it turns out dihydrogen monoxide means water. This is essentially what news organizations do. If I told you that planes were being loaded with hydroxyl acid, or they're putting hydroxyl acid in these planes, and when you see those planes up above you, that white vapor coming out is hydroxyl acid. This stuff is found in cancer. It's one of the leading causes of death Okay, if you breathe in even a little bit of it, you will die. It will eat through your car's brakes and cause people to crash. This is a dangerous chemical. People are going to hear that and believe there's some kind of, like, it's an intentional act by the government to like chemtrails.
We've got to ban this shit now, man. We have to ban
exactly.
it.
But the reality is it just means water.
Yeah.
And that's what you'll see a lot of these news organizations do. They'll say something in a way that's true, but totally misleading people, you know?
Yeah, yeah. How are you, Jez?
Good, man. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. So, have you guys met?
No,
not. Yeah.
Now we have. Yeah, how's it going, man?
Good, man. How are you?
Pretty good. Yep.
Yeah. So what's been happening, Jez? What's the latest, man? It's been a fucking bumpy ride, mate. They flagged you. They flagged your channel off. You were gone for a couple of days last week, weren't you?
Yeah, they flagged. Is that beta? Oh, alpha. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. They flagged it down. Trusted Flagger helped me get it back. There's currently 2 strikes on the channel, but I'm confident that if they at least look at it, because the last video was flagged as quote spam, which it's clearly not. So I'm having to have some faith in the system that they're going to remove the strike, because because I don't have 100,000 subscribers, I don't get access to like any priority service. So I email them, and then 2 days passes and they email me back. But at least they're emailing me back, and they've said, well, we're prioritizing looking at this strike. So I'm hoping that they remove it this week.
Yeah.
But what's your other strike for?
Same thing. That strike, they've what was weird is they flagged down a video as harassment and bullying.
Hey, you're slightly roboting, mate. You want to just tinker with your settings, please?
Is that better?
Yeah.
So yeah, it was the whole controversy started with that video getting falsely flagged, and then I appealed it, and that was like back in November, and I haven't heard anything back. And so like no, we don't, we don't, like no decision on the appeal. And then when this other one got flagged down, they didn't actually take the video down, which is weird. And they took that first video down. So when I've been talking to YouTube, I said, hey, I've actually got 2 open appeals with you. I haven't heard back on either one of them. So as long as the first strike wears off in like 4 weeks, but the second strike has been very problematic because I can't even upload videos. I can't do anything on the channel right now, which sucks.
Yeah.
And like, why are you're getting falsely flagged? That's what's happening.
Yeah. The second one was definitely. I uploaded a video. I mean, I don't know if you've been following this, but there's quite a few pedophiles in the community.
Fucking hell, that was fucking hard hitting. I saw a video you did last week, just going through and looking at their fucking records and that. But the stuff that you're exposing is pretty shit. I mean, there shouldn't be, blokes convicted of actual pedophilia working with kids playing Magic the Gathering, judging competitions, 6 months, a year later. That's ridiculous.
And did Wizards know this? Were like these people vetted and then like Wizards knew, or what?
No, they don't have any background checks, and they have been on record as refusing to do them.
Wow.
They refuse to do it.
Yeah. So oh god.
No, you go ahead.
I was gonna say, to understand the way the judge. So there's one important distinction, is that Wizards of the Coast is the company that makes the game. The judges are technically volunteers, even though everyone would agree that they should be paid. These events can't run without them. There's actually a class action lawsuit in California where a bunch of judges are suing Wizards of the Coast because they're trying to say, look, we were employees and you weren't paying us, so pay us now. $10 million, I think, is something like the lawsuit.
Well, but I mean, come on, people become judges knowing it's a volunteer thing. It seems a bit disingenuous to then sue Wizards being like, well, we're an employee, owe us money now.
Yeah, I don't
unless
think
there was an agreement. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I don't think there's ever been anything formal, but what happened was I started I opened this anonymous tip line essentially, and all of a sudden I started getting like, oh, here's a pedo, here's another pedo, here's another pedo, here's another pedo. And like some of the timelines lined up to where they had been convicted in like 2014, and I had them working events in like 2015. And the Judge Association, in my opinion, is the one that's behind mass flagging that video. And because they have a giant Facebook group, and they are obviously not feeling too kind to me. And they actually, I got them. I have a I have a mole inside their group, and they're sending me screenshots all the time. And I just sent out a tweet before where like somebody's literally saying, "Here's the URL of a video. I need you guys to go mass flag it because it makes me look bad." There's nothing wrong with the video.
Is his name the Guardian?
Yeah, you see a mouse avatar?
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's not. But go ahead.
I was gonna say, if you want to finish, because I'm gonna deviate a little bit.
Oh, yeah. So basically, where I'm at is, I think I found another 3 sex offenders that own game stores, and my whole the whole thing is like, it's not really any one person's fault. Wizards should probably say, look, we have all the money in the world. We're going to set aside some funds so you can background check these people. Done. But they're not. And the people who run the tournaments are refusing to background check. That's Channel Fireball. And the Judge Association has said, well, we can't afford it. Even though I've said, look, just tell your judges if you want to volunteer, you've got to have a clean record. Like, how hard is that? You sign up, you bring it. Like, if you have nothing to hide, I think most expensive background checks, most background checks are like $20 or $30 tops. So this isn't like a prohibitive cost of somebody who wants to volunteer should be able to provide that. And some local state laws require that sort of thing.
So I want to ask, I just want to state, I guess, and we'll shift a little bit. A friend of mine was talking about this story. He's a Magic player, and he said to me, it seems so convenient that you had beef with Wizards, they ban you, and then all of a sudden you come out with this story about these pedophiles. So he's skeptical. He thinks it's too convenient.
I hear a ton of it, and it's frustrating because people that really like ideologically hate me are saying that to me, like, oh, well, if you're just doing this for whatever. Well, no, I mean, I can both hate Wizards of the Coast and hate pedophiles. Like I didn't know.
If the convictions are there, the convictions are there. I mean, there's no.
Oh yeah, the proof is rock solid. Like I have the court documents. Like I'm not pointing the finger at anybody. But if they were, they'd be over 18.
A judge.
Yeah, right. Well, the crazy thing is every couple days I see these people. Well, he's no hero. Blah blah. I don't care about that. But the thing is, I didn't know about a single instance of this until I opened that email inbox, which I didn't do until I was banned. So I didn't know about any of, like, I could quote show the receipts because I have, the emails come in, and like within minutes, if I see the email, you're seeing it go up on Twitter once I can verify it. And then when I get home from work, I do a video on it. So like there is a percentage of people that unfortunately on the messenger they don't like, which is why I think Wizards of the Coast like probably isn't doing anything or saying anything either.
You think they're just going to sweep it under the rug?
Oh yeah, but they had their vice president Elaine Chase put out a 5-part tweet last week, and that was a video that actually got flagged down because she just got completely destroyed. Her first tweet was like, some of you may have heard of some of the misinformation coming out there. So like step 1 was to call me a liar. Step 2 was to say that, well, the Judge Association is a group of volunteers. So like step 2,
volunteers.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so to separate herself from them. And they didn't put this on the main account. Their VP tweeted it out. And their Judge Association Twitter, I've been told by my insiders, has been taken over by corporate, or they've been issued like, you're not allowed to tweet, don't tweet anything, don't respond to anything. And they haven't done so since I broke this. So there's clearly something going on behind the scenes where like Hasbro is trying to cover this up. But if you look at, or Wizards of the Coast maybe specifically, every single tweet they tweet out now, it's like, hey, check out this new Magic card. And then there's like 30 replies about like, yeah, but what about the pedos? Like, hey, is this Magic card going to rape my kids?
This is, I don't know if, I tweeted something out. I got a bunch of retweets. I don't know why, but I was basically just fed up with the politicking. I don't play Magic so that I can look. I'm on the ground during the cultural Civil War street battles. I make videos about this. I play Magic so that me and my buddies, we'll all put on like some stupid movie. We'll set up like the poker table. Everyone will grab a beer. I don't really drink, but we'll chill out with some chips and we'll play a game of EDH Commander and just and have fun. And my decks are designed to just screw up the entire global enchantments kind of stuff, just make everything wacky, and it's a good time. We're all laughing, where it's making stupid jokes. I'll play a dumb card that screws the whole game up, and everyone just goes like, "Oh, face palms." And now it's literally like, dude, did you hear? Like, people got banned. Like, there's some like stuff going on. Like, apparently they were like harassing somebody, and I'm like, stop talking about this. I'm not playing Magic so that I can deal with social justice and the Civil War. And then Wizards of the Coast deciding to step into the fray. For me, it's like a final straw where I'm like, man.
we feel the same way. Sorry, I don't want to, but that's the thing. Yeah. People accuse me too, like, oh, well, you just, because you don't agree with it, that's what you have a problem. No. Like, I literally at work all the time. I don't want any of this. And if Wizards of the Coast wants to put out all sorts of tweets and Facebook posts about National Women's Day, which I would prefer they did not, then you better do it on National Men's Day, which they did not. And like all this kind of stuff where I'm like, okay, well, can you just print? You're literally printing money. Can you just not have an opinion about politics? And it's actually really pervasive in the gaming community. It's bad.
The company that prints little pieces of cardboard with magic spells on them should not be getting involved in politics. And it's I to a certain extent, I think there's some responsibility on the players that really want to be involved and get passionate about this. But for the most part, the company itself legitimized the company decided that Magic the Gathering should enter the cultural Civil War. And I'm just like, man, I went to a card shop and I was like, oh, what should I get? Eternal Masters. I was like, because I mostly play EDH and Modern. I kind of just don't care for standards much anymore.
Bering's just sitting on the other side. They're just fucking ripping on us.
Did you just say there's magic spells on the cards?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's literally, look, this is like one of my favorite. Like, I got Lightning Bolt is an iconic card. It's there's I forgot the name of it, but there was a series of cards that cost 1 and did 3. So there's draw 3 cards, heal 3, prevent 3 damage, deals 3 damage, etc. And Lightning Bolt's a very, very, well-known card. So this is from the very first series. I think it's worth just over $100. It's in a special case.
Oh, way more than that. Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
I bought it for $100. It's an 8.5 though. It's not perfect, but
okay. All right.
Anyway, the point is, this is a game where goblins fight wizards. And they're literally posting about social justice and banning players for posting Pepe memes. And I'm just like,
let's get back to the goblins.
Can I sit around with my buddies and crack jokes, watch a comedy movie? Like, it's not just dudes playing this. Like, there's in the group when we play, there's like 1 or 2, actually 2 or 3 chicks come by. They work at a game shop. And we're sitting around and we're cracking jokes. And, I'll put down my commander and then everyone gets mad because I've got Narset. And when she attacks, I get 4 free cards, and then everyone gets upset because I just dominate the board. Anyway, I digress. But it's fun and funny. And then when I go to a card shop and I'm like, oh, I wonder what, I'll buy some Eternal Masters. And the guy goes, man, did you hear about those players getting banned? And I was like, no. And he goes, something about like Pepe. And I'm like, don't talk about Pepe, please. I sit on the computer all day seeing Pepe memes, hearing about Pepe being, Pepe creators suing people. And then the free speech versus the social justice. I'm like, I'm playing the Magic Fantasy strategy game forget about this. Like, I'm coming to your shop to eat candy and make a goblin fight an elf. That's all I want. That's all.
All we want to do is relax. And they even had this Facebook post. Jesper Myforce is one of the creators of the game. He put out this Facebook post during kind of all this, and it says, as one of the creators of this game, I can promise that this game was never made for toxic bullies. Magic was not designed as a platform for those so desperate for it. This is a reference to me. They need to feel and bully others, or they need to bully others to feel good about themselves or their toadies. Magic was created by women as well as men. Magic was created for members of the LGBT community, was never designed for the Pepe crowd. Like, what?
Whoa.
Yeah, it's very aggressive.
Is that a quote?
Yeah, that's word for word. Yeah.
They flat out said there's a player base, there's a group of people that were excluded from playing their game.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
Tim's
well,
gonna blow.
but you realize that the Pepe crowd are like the anime, like it's like anime lovers. It's like 4chan. I mean, I grew up at a card shop where they had a screen running back-to-back DBZ, and they had manga. It was a comic shop, card shop. Everyone I grew up with who played Magic was a fan of anime and comic books. Like to say that, and they're gamers. Like there's an absolute massive overlap between gamers, Magic the Gathering, comic books as community. For them to say the Pepe crowd, it's like this is like, look, I understand, you can disagree with them politically, and you are free to absolutely hate the Trump loving Pepe people, but you have to realize that, like, it blows my mind that they would actually say that we don't want these people, we don't want these players. It's like, whoa, that's crazy. Wow.
It's just bad for business, above everything else. But hey, Jazz, this comment came in from Preston Scott. He says, "Oh, come on! This has been the biggest injection of publicity the quartering could ever hope to get. No publicity is bad publicity. What is when your channel's deleted?"
Yeah, I would prefer that this never happened. My channel was growing just fine without it.
It's true though. I mean, it doesn't mean you should be happy it happened, but certainly, I always tell people, look, what's the saying? Like, God closes a door, opens a window, or something like that. And as long as your channel comes back, as they remove these strikes, it is PR, and that is going to be good. I remember, Bunty King, when he got banned on Twitter, I think he said this, like, he came back and had a bunch of people like now want to know who he was and follow him because of what happened. So the important thing is when they do this, it backfires. When they say, we don't, like, I haven't been following this a whole lot, but there's people who have criticized you saying, like, you are a bully, you have attacked people, whatever. And it's like, okay, but you realize you're Streisand affecting him right now. If they hate you, the best thing they can do is ignore you. But when they flag your channel, when they attack you, all they're doing is benefiting you.
Yeah, as long as the channel gets back, there's no denying that there's a positive. I've been positively affected by this. There's been people who have backed me financially because of this. There's been more people that have subscribed to my channel because of this. I would have preferred literally any other way than had to have to go through all this, certainly. But yeah, you're right. You can't deny that there's some benefit. But I think to imply that this was planned or that that I'm happy about it is not fair.
I mean, if Wizards came to your defense, it would have been much better publicity.
Oh, of course. I still think they can fix this by saying, like, well, now they can't fix this without putting together some sort of background check policy. They have to do it now. But
they should be doing that anyway, of course.
Yeah, and it's just any one of them could do it. The people that run the tournaments. I mean, when you actually want to sell Magic cards, when you want to sell this one particular product, not every trading card game is like this, but you have to be a part of what's called the WPN program, which means that, like, I can't sell Magic cards without a brick and mortar store. So if you're going to require pictures and all this stuff, which is what they do, you could simply require the store owner provide a clean criminal history. I mean, it's not that difficult. But
or at least just one that shows that you don't finger kids.
Yeah. You've never been arrested. Some of these guys are pretty. Their history is pretty gross. Yeah, child CP stuff on their computers and stuff.
I just gotta say, what the hell is going on? I got my tweet deck open and I just saw something about, like, child drag queens, and I
saw that too.
Yeah, it's been going around, and there's also that video that went around of, like, a little kid in Brazil twerking, and I just don't understand what's been going on lately with. I don't necessarily want to say the left, but certainly people on the left are very supportive of the sexualization of children. And even to the point where, with Magic the Gathering now, they just don't care. They dismiss. They say that this is misinformation. They're not running background checks. We see these photos and people supporting this kind of stuff. It's kind of strange to me. I just don't think there's ever a situation where reasonable people would support the sexualization of children. Yet,
yeah. Well, didn't they? I think they got caught changing. They got caught changing their profile too. Like, their literal profile said they sold, like, erotic clothes or something like that. One of the people that was like some 10-year-old kid who was apparently trans too.
Who sold erotic clothes?
Here I'll tell you. They used to have it in there. They used to have, the chat might get it before I did, but they used to have this thing. Where is this? Where the hell is it?
Just while you're on
I
that.
can't find it.
Yeah. Oh, you got it.
No, go ahead. Just skip it for now.
While you're looking at this, side note, I just got an email confirming that my interview with the ex-WikiLeaks member, Brigitta, is confirmed demonetized because apparently having a political discussion about the history of some of the biggest leaks and talking about not even anything. It was like we weren't talking about any individual specifically. It was kind of like, how do you feel about free speech? You're with the Pirate Party. Wow, you really stand for free speech. That's interesting. And
controversial.
Yeah, you can't make money off that. But certainly my biggest penis collection in the world is totally fine.
Did you hear about, I was on this random live stream with somebody that works with their flagging. Oh, here's the thing. Yeah. That works with that department. Apparently, like, there's certain things that auto flag, but then the people that actually decide whether or not it's based on like a random 10-second clip of your video. They don't even watch it. There's no context to whether or not they confirm or deny its profitability or its monetization.
I'm pretty sure it's individual discretion. Is that what you said? Like,
there is a set of there's a guideline, like a checklist type that they go through.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. If
That's
it would
why
offend the Tumblr user, if it would, something like that.
Hey, Tim, when you say demonetized, do you mean like is it in yellow state? Is it
yellow,
little to no ads type thing? Honestly, I'm sometimes lazy in even appealing them because I find they still make money. They still actually.
I'll make about 25% on yellow compared to a green.
So
I
don't
notice that big a difference when I'm really religious about going through and contesting.
Man, so I am way down for this first week, and it's gonna, so I get paid out basically a month in advance. So at the end of this month, I'm gonna get money from December, which means I'm not going to feel the pain until the end of February. But I can already say, looking at, because I'm with full screen, the demonetization is basically like every video in the past 7 days has been bad. And they remonetize it eventually, but then I make like, I don't know, like $20 on a video, and it's just brutal.
Yeah.
So the company's name is House of Man, by the way. Ironically, the House of Man, and it's an erotic clothing company, unisex men's and women's drag queen costumes, vegan friendly.
There you go.
It's ethical.
Ethical seafood. Yeah.
Well, they got a kids section. They got a children's department in this drag queen shop.
I'm pretty sure society is breaking down. Simply because the tribalism is so hardcore that people are willing to, defend some of the most deviant, psychotic shit as long as it's their tribe. You know what I mean? Like nobody wants to punch in their own direction, punch right or punch left. And it's like you see BuzzFeed criticizing Paul Joseph Watson over his tweet about the Iranian protests, and it's like technically what they were saying was true, but like why are you like acting as a defense, like running defense for the Iranian government? I don't understand. Like
because they're attacking Paul Joseph Watson.
Exactly. Like tribalism is so hardcore that they will defend a repressive regime just to win points with their tribe, to oppose. It's just the craziest thing in the world, man.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Hey, just back on Tim, we were talking about Twitter and the public square and all that before. In relation to that, Gregory Hurst says stop censorship by having the government control content. Well, that's a fair point.
I don't know about that.
Well, I can see what he's saying. I mean, it does ultimately sort of encroach on the trading rights of businesses, doesn't it? I mean,
yeah, and I don't want to empower anyone to control speech or control content. The problem is that Twitter controls the content on their platform. It's their company, it's their platform. They can do that, but we recognize the problem of the political biases or whatever of the people who own the company. Stifles speech, and when the company is as important as it is to political discourse, them having that power is a bad thing. deciding that the solution is to give someone else the power, that's just not true. It's not a solution to the problem. I don't know what is.
Well, how do you give? I mean, how do you come to a situation where no one has the power? How does that happen?
Decentralized social platforms. I'm hoping Minds.com is a solution to this. I know that they are, for the most part, they say they're mostly decentralized through, I believe it's torrent. So yeah, hopefully,
but ultimately, Bill's still the owner. I mean, he still owns.
Yep. Him and I think his brother still have a lot of control. So it's an issue of, Minds has gained a lot of followers, and I'm hoping that it succeeds because I personally trust Bill more than I trust Jack, and hopefully a company. I gotta say though, Twitter used to claim to be the free speech wing of the free speech party. And then when it comes to supporting their infrastructure, paying the bills, making money, they bend over the same that everyone else does. They say, you know what? Screw it. We're going to make money off ads and we're going to stifle these people. That's what we'll do. So I don't trust anybody to have that power. That's why it's like decentralized platforms, the only real way to do it, if it's even attainable.
Yeah. Are you on BitChute?
Yes, but it's mostly like a backup. I don't actively do a whole lot. Whenever I post, it automatically backs up to BitChute.
Yeah, so does mine. I reckon it's great. You don't have to do anything. It just updates your videos.
Yeah, and so I'm pulling it up right now. Timcast.
I'm having a chat with the owner of that, the guy who developed it over the next. I haven't organised it yet, but I spoke with him the other day. It'll be over the next couple of weeks.
I get between 100 and 300 views, so it's the smallest. But it's automatic. So as long, I got one here. It's got 600 views. Oh, a couple of them. Wow, that's not bad. But hey, if it's like I don't have to do anything for it to work, and it's a decent backup. Yeah, I'll use it for what it is. But
yeah, that would have been. I think that would have helped. By the way, when VidMe, I thought had a good chance, but they just ran out of money or whatever. But having an option to what's that?
VidMe was just Reddit.
It was more. Yeah. It was just YouTube Mini, wasn't it?
It was. I think Reddit owned it.
Oh, all right, okay.
Oh, yeah. Did they?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
I think that's, or they're heavy investors. I don't know exactly, but yeah, they controlled it.
If there was a service where everyone could just put your videos on 10 different services at once more easily.
Oh, dude,
I think there'd be a chance.
I think because I'm with Full Screen that they. You can do Facebook and YouTube at the same time.
Yeah.
Through their uploader.
Facebook is great too, but you can't unless you have. I mean, God, Facebook doesn't protect creators at all. People just rip your content and repost it, and then make it worse. They monetize it.
Is that right?
I mean, that guy, what's his name? SoFlo Antonio. That's all he does. He's making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year just stealing people's content and reposting and monetizing it, and Facebook doesn't care.
What? So he's reposting it on YouTube? Or?
No, on Facebook.
Yeah, freebooting.
What? So have Facebook got a monetization platform that independent people can
just for big channels?
Yeah. So I think some people got removed from it recently. So it's I don't know what the plan is, but apparently VIPs with big channels are going to get access to it soon.
Right.
Yeah, it's going to be big bucks. It's a problem that's existed forever, and Facebook doesn't care because it gives them the edge. You can steal a video from anybody and re-upload it to Facebook, and Facebook's like, whatever. And then, incidentally, my brother made a video that's got over 1 billion views because it's been stolen so many times. I don't know. You may have seen it. It's a video of, it's black and white. It's police dash cam footage, and a cop walks up to a van, and then when the cop walks back to the squad car, the driver of the van releases drugs on a balloon, and it says Thug Life. So my brother made, funny. Yeah. So it's it's all staged. My brother, my two brothers staged the whole thing. It was a skit, and it's got just every single day my brother would see it posted to it would be in his timeline. It would be in my timeline. I was in an Uber, and I was talking about this, and then the driver he turns around, he's like, "I've seen that video. Wait, that was you?" My brother's like, "Yeah." And so my brother started screenshotting every time he saw someone steal the video, and it's hundreds, 700 or 800 million views, because some of them would have 10 million, some would have 13 million, some are 5, and then it's got 2 million on YouTube itself. So he was pissed at first. Like he's just so angry that everybody kept stealing it, refusing to give him credit. And I was like, no, don't be mad. Just claim all the views. Just put it, you just say they're yours. They are.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's like the only way you can really look at it, because you're not, he was filing against some of these companies first, like with complaints. And then a week later, YouTube would take it down. And so it does nothing. So I'm like, screenshot it, put it in a portfolio, and talk about how awesome you are.
Yeah. But doesn't I mean, I thought that that's the reason that that YouTube have the copyright system that it does, because I thought if like, for example, if Facebook not giving a shit about other people's content illegally uploaded, if I was of the understanding that that you can actually go Facebook, you can attack Facebook legally under the DMCA laws.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure YouTube made the content ID system in response to a lawsuit from Viacom, because people kept uploading TV shows and stuff like that. Facebook hasn't had that problem from big companies. So, if people start uploading episodes of Friends, then yeah, Facebook's in trouble. Facebook's not a good platform for uploading episodes of Friends, so nobody does it. So Facebook gets away with it. What works are viral clips. And, I hate Facebook videos, but hey, I get it. It's, I watch some of these really famous Facebook creators, and they do this. It's like really low quality, lowbrow content, but it's so obvious as to why it works. Sometimes, you know what? Screw it, guys. I'm quitting news. I'm going to start a prank channel. You guys want to come with me to Japan? Go to the Suicide Forest. Like Logan Paul gained like 80,000 subs that day. He filmed that. So what am I doing with my life? I'm just gonna go prank people from now on.
Yeah. What did you think? What did you think of that video? Did you get offended with the dead body?
Fake outrage. Absolute fake outrage.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You know what's outrageous? The video where like the clips where Logan Paul is a dick to people in Japan, where he's throwing fish and like throwing stuffed animals at people. Yeah, he's a douchebag. But you know what, man? Him filming the dead body was to an extent fake outrage. I think some of the criticism is legitimate, where it's like, dude, you're like playing this way too, like you're joking too much. This is a serious issue. But he's not the first person to film a body. He's not the worst person to film a body. Vice went to the Suicide Forest.
Yeah.
But they got like close-up shots of a 2-year-old dead body, and they're like slow panning as they film, and they got multiple angles. And the thing is, Vice filmed a skeleton. So some people might say, oh, it's not as bad. I think it's worse, because that if the body was never removed, it was never like no one ever that person's family probably doesn't know what happened to them, and they can only assume. And so Vice goes there and films it, and they've got like 17 million views and acclaim. People loved that they did this. Granted, Vice is doing it from a journalistic perspective. Logan Paul is going there as like a douchebag who's screwing with people, and he knew this was gonna happen. Honestly,
he didn't laugh either. Vice didn't laugh when they found it. That kind of didn't help.
Here's the thing. Vice at the time was run by like a 40-year-old dude who knew how to play it, was really good with public relations, and said, we can go to this forest, we can film this, it'll be really edgy, get a ton of views, and it'll work. Logan is a dumb kid who has found success playing he's like this generation's Bam Margera, basically. And I don't think he understood what he was doing. I think the only reason people are really coming down on him is because it's an opportunity to knock him down a few pegs. So I think there's a lot of fake outrage. I think he deserves a lot of criticism because he's kind of a douchebag. But for the most part, I think the outrage over what he did was more just that. Look, people are jealous of success. They hate the guy because he's successful in a very disturbing way. It's like when I watch his videos and he does this stupid, obnoxious shit where he fucks with people, I get really angry that I'm like, that's what works. This is the guy who gets to be a millionaire, gets to be famous and successful, being an asshole. But I recognize, going to the forest, he wasn't the first person. He's not the worst person. And it's just, people just don't like him.
Did you see that? Yeah, I agree. Somebody put out a video on a Twitter video, which is I think another big thing coming up is monetizing those. But it was like something unicorn. It like montaged all the horrendous, basically racist things that he did when he was there. Like, gotta mad respect, and then he's like, whacking people with fish and stuff. And just like dressed as a geisha. Like, thanks, you make Americans look garbage.
Fish slapping people.
He's like, yeah, he like was like, I don't think he was fish slapping people, but he's like got fish in his hands and he's like banging on windows, and he's just all around a douchebag. He's an arrogant dude who just gets to do whatever he wants because he wants. And the more wealthy he becomes, the more power he has to get away with this kind of BS. If you want to criticize him, the suicide forest thing isn't the main thing to criticize him for. The main thing to criticize him for is that video where he goes around Japan just generally fucking with people and being a piece of shit. That's what, like, I think because of the the seriousness of a suicide, people are like, this is what we're going to attack him for, and they're taking the opportunity to attack him. But there's no harm in being like, look, a dumb kid wandering into a forest and finding a dead body is like, there's like movies about this, So he was a bit too whimsical in his discovery of this tragic situation, for sure. But literally him going around Japan with fish, banging on windows, and generally harassing people is much more worthy of criticism, in my opinion. Not to say the suicide force thing isn't worthy of criticism. I just think it's being overhyped by people who hate the guy.
Well, you think YouTube also, part of it, I think what also stoked the flames is the video got on trending. And we know now that list is manually curated. So somebody looked at that and thought it was cool to put it on the trending list.
Well,
that's pretty...
We'll tone it down a little bit. I don't think all of the time they're curating the list. I think Jake Paul's whitelisted. I think they saw how successful he was and said, just his channel is on the whitelist for appearing on trending. I don't think every single video it's like someone chooses it and drags it in, but we know they do. I think it's if you watch the James O'Keefe video when the dude talks about how they work it, he says like sometimes they'll find a video that they want to be on the list. I think when it comes to big channels like, Casey Neistat or Jake Paul, not to compare the two because they're wildly different in honor and dignity, but I think they're whitelisted. It's like YouTube just says, hey man, people love this stuff, so let's just make sure these guys hit the trending list more often, and they put them on like drag them into a little box that says, I gotta say, can I just take the? I'm sorry, I just want to take the time to give respect to Casey Neistat. Just so much respect to the guy. Because he makes these clickbaity, vloggy videos. He's gained a lot of subs, but he's really nice to people. He doesn't make videos where he bangs on windows with fish or films dead bodies. And he gets a lot of flack. But I'm like, this is a good time to just compare Casey and Jake Paul and be grateful that someone like Casey is successful and has a lot of young fans. Because he's a dude who's actually going to inspire young people to be nicer people, to work harder. And Jake Paul is going to inspire people to run around slapping people with fish.
Some of Casey's videos are actually really interesting too. I watch quite a lot of them. He's done a few. He did one just recently where he was on. I think it was a fucking a Singapore Airlines flight or something. And there's this new like super first class where you get your own your own cabin and a fucking cinema, and he had a shower in the sky. This like sort of luxurious.
Wait! I'm sorry. People in the chat are complaining that I just gave props to Casey. I just need to remind everybody that he did come out saying, I believe he said it was a mistake that he endorsed Hillary Clinton. Just so everybody knows.
Yeah, that was gay.
Yeah. He was like, I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, well, it cost him a lot. But the guy also, remember, like, I think his most interesting videos like that, like the super. Those are also commercials, and he has gotten in trouble where he doesn't really make it clear that, he's obviously not paying for that flight, and he's not really disclosing it's a commercial, in my opinion.
Well, hold on. He perhaps for maybe that flight, but he has done videos where he's endorsed products that he flat out says they are not endorsements and he is not being paid. So I think the thing is, I don't think his flights are free, and I don't think he's being paid for the flights. They might just be like, Casey, we'll give you a free flight on the airline, in which case it's not technically a sponsored deal, so it's a gray area.
Yeah. Well, it's a win-win, right?
Right. Totally. I mean, I get free stuff sent to me sometimes, and like there's no recompense. There's like, I'm not going to do anything for you if you send me something. If you want, like I've had a few like little mobile cameras sent to me. And if you want me to promote it, like I will flat out tell people it's promoted, and then like there's a payment for like something like that, depending on what it is. But Casey,
isn't that funny how? Oh, go ahead.
No. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, like, there's a lot of companies that reach out. At least I imagine with you too. It happens with me a lot. They're like, oh, we'll send you some free product. You promote it. I'm like, no. That's a prop. Like if you want me to promote your product, you have to pay me. Like I need your product on camera to promote it. And they're
there's like, it's an interesting conundrum with being paid to promote something versus promoting it for free. Because it's like a genuine promotion is a product you really like. But if you're promoting something for money, like I kind of don't trust your promotion for that. You know what I mean? Like, well, of course you're going to say good stuff about it. They gave you money.
I try not to say good things about.
I think there's a sort of an understanding there. I mean, it's like there's there's AdSense videos before you AdSense ads before your videos as well. It doesn't mean that you're necessarily endorsing them. You run a business. You've got to generate income.
Can I just I've put this out on the record a couple times, but can I just let everybody know who might not know? You can open I believe it's an AdWords account with Google, and you can advertise any YouTube video on any other YouTube video so long as the video is monetized. That means you can go on YouTube and take a video of a guy in a KKK hood and pay Google to run that in front of Coca-Cola videos, and YouTube will do it.
Hang on, to run that in front of Coca-Cola videos?
Yes. So Coke has their own channel where they upload their commercials, right? And you've got one where it's like,
why haven't you done this, Tim? For fuck's sake, mate. This is...
No, I did. I made a video where I got I set up an advertising campaign for a KKK video in front of Coke, explained how I did it, and then deleted it because I don't want to get sued. The point is, a lot of people don't know this, that you as an individual can take I can take your videos and run them as commercials on the Young Turks. I can do that without your permission, without Jenk's permission. I can just do that. So put it this way. Coke has a commercial where they talk about the Special Olympics and they praise the athletes. You could literally take a video of a guy insulting the Special Olympics and pay YouTube to run that in front of the Coke commercial. So this is what happens. Let's say someone sees a thumbnail that says, "We love the Special Olympics," and it's a little girl on the front of the thumbnail. And they click that. And the first thing they see is a commercial where someone is ripping on the Special Olympics. They're going to assume that's the Coca-Cola video. You see what I'm saying? So...
Well, you can see it. You can see that's an ad, though. I mean,
yeah, but here's the thing. I'll give you a better example. My brother, I don't know if you know who Grade A Under A is.
Yeah.
My brother cut together a series of his videos into an ad promoting his YouTube channel. So basically, because Grade's videos are just paintbrush drawings and voiceover, he was easily able to make a video where Grade A Under A is like, "Subscribe to my favorite channel." And my brother then paid for that to run as an advertisement on Grade A Under A's channel, so that people would they'd see a video from Grade, and then the ad, they would actually see Grade A Under A talking to them, and they wouldn't notice it was an advertisement.
What a canny bastard. That's
it's genius, but it's also like, that's not fair use.
That's copyright breach for sure.
Yeah.
No, but hold on. Grade A Under A was paid for that advertisement. He accepted money for it.
Not willingly. He didn't accept it.
That's not that. Hold on. No, that's not true. You signed an agreement with YouTube when you run ads on your videos. You accept
that doesn't
money.
mean that the company can use my content.
That's right.
No.
You're not signing your copyright, your rights away.
Oh, but is it transformative? It was satirical. It was parody.
No, it's
Look. The point is, obviously, there's a.
This is exactly what Sargon's getting grief for.
Oh,
but cutting up someone's video and just changing it.
But Sargon's going to win.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
I honestly believe that Sargon has a 99.9% chance of winning that.
Yeah, he'll win.
Yeah, the point is, fair use is really lenient. I think the issue isn't copyright infringement. In the case of my brother cutting up Grade's video, it's transformative and it's satirical. It's more an issue of, I think it's more of an issue of libel necessarily.
Well, you're purposely like trying to confuse his subscribers. I'm not mad at him. I think it's funny. But
maybe sort of obtaining benefit by deception or something.
Yeah, I think it was done as kind of like a stunt, as sort of like a protest, I guess. Not necessarily a protest, but like the making the ad run wasn't. It's actually a longer story than that.
Oh, but don't get me wrong. I think he's a champion for doing. What a fucking great idea. But you have to peg it to something.
It's the campaign he did wasn't just doing this. He also manipulated the Reddit algorithm to make it appear on the front page. So he did this whole thing, made a point about, it was like everyone's talking about advertising on YouTube. And I think the bigger picture was that it was a point about how the entire system is fucked. And I can literally take a video of Paul Joseph Watson complaining about Islam and run that as an advertisement on, a care video. And
Tim,
YouTube just allows it.
Could you do a real quick favor for me? Could you say The Quartering may or may not be my all-time favorite YouTube channel, and you should or should not subscribe to it today?
If well, we can talk numbers if you want me to endorse your channel. And
so let me get this straight. We could, if we could get the necessary like words and phrases and that from, say, Vadim Newquist, creationist cat, saying, "I support the ethno state."
People have done it to me
before one of Vadim's actual fucking video, your stupid cat videos. Is that what you're saying?
The Antifa people do that to me all the time. They take things out of context and mask the video so you can't tell it's clipped together. They had one where they made it sound like I was supporting like I was sympathetic to the alt-right by saying, it was something like where I said, if you talk to people who claim to be alt-right, they'll tell you they're just defending their rights and that it's about preserving their race. And if you talk to the left, they're going to say things like it's about genocide and white supremacy. And they cut this video together, so it's like it sounded. They cut it in a way that it wasn't me explaining what they might say to literally me saying that. It was like me going, "Oh, but they just want to protect their heritage."
Yeah.
And like they totally cut it the part where I'm like, "That's what they think," which is true, to make it seem like I was actually the one saying it. They do this all the time.
They don't advertise that before your video, though, do they? That's the genius part.
Well, no, they go onto websites where activists organize, so that when I show up in Berkeley, I went to the skate park in Berkeley, a little skate ledge spot, and I almost got into a fight. Some guy came up to me and started screaming that I was one of the white nationalist dudes, and I was like, "What?" And then I had a bunch of dudes come up to me and start basically trying to get into a fight with me, and I was like, "I don't know what you guys are talking about." And this dude's like, "Yeah, that's him, dude. That's him. That's the guy." And I'm like, I don't know. And so then one of the dudes goes, "Hold on, you a Trump supporter?" And I was like, "No." And he was like, "All right, fine by me." He's like, and they told the guy to back off. He was like, "If he says he's not, he's not." But they posted on this forum claiming that I was alt-right. They do this all the time. This is the thing. I've found that certainly it happens on the right where someone will lie. They're not, political factions aren't immune to being evil, nasty people. But I got to tell you, man, the far left, the anti-fascist, the anti-capitalist groups lie like there is no tomorrow. They make up the craziest things about me. They posted a picture of my mom on this forum. Like, what the hell? Yeah, these people are genuinely, they've physically attacked me in the street. I've never been physically attacked by someone associated with the far right. But in Berkeley, this dude, one of the white nationalists, he was wearing the face mask with the skull on it, walked up to me and he goes, "Which side are you on?" And I was like, "Nobody's." I was like, "Neither." And he goes, "Are you left?" And I was like, "Nobody." And then he walked away. So that's the closest encounter I've ever got to someone who identified as a white nationalist dude. And then after he asked me, he immediately jumped the barricade, ran up to an Antifa dude and punched him in the face. The Antifa people literally just walk up to me and hit me. And they pick up, it's like.
So have you ever been King? Has anyone ever actually punched you in the face? Have you ever been full on attacked?
I've never been punched in the face, but if you Google search Tim Pool attacked, you'll see it all. There's a photo of me from some magazine where people are holding me back because the third time I got attacked, I grabbed the dude. He came up behind me and judo chopped my arm and knocked my phone out of my hand while I was streaming. My phone hits the ground and bounces away just boom, like a ball.
I remember that he was fucking angry. He was angry as fuck before you even.
This was in 2012. This was January, early January 2012.
Oh, maybe
this guy was in full black bloc. He had one of the Occupy organizers walked in front of me and shined a flashlight in my face so I couldn't see. And then his buddy came up behind me and just slammed my arm. It wasn't a dude chop. He won't down strike. Phone goes flying, and that was it. I just turned around, grabbed his arm, and pulled him in and locked his arm as tight as I could, because I know if I hit him, I'm going to get arrested. And the cops aren't going to care who did what. They're going to be like, "I saw this guy fit this guy, and that's it. I'm getting arrested." So I grabbed him, and the cops came up, pulled the guy out, and pushed him off while they held me back. And that pissed me off. But fortunately, I should say, and to the chagrin of the people who are trying to silence me, the first thing that happens as soon as the guy runs off is every journalist there turns their mics and cameras to my face and said, "What happened?" And then I'm looking at like 12 journalists from like all the New York outlets going, "This guy just came up and attacked me. He struck me. My phone, I don't know where my phone is at. The police just let him go." And then the next day, MSNBC asked me to come on and talk about why I was attacked. So I'll tell you what, you want to come up and hit me, all you're going to do is make me louder. So fuck those people.
Jeez, that's drastic, isn't it?
But it happens all the time. You know, I get shit from these people. They're crazy. You know, it's like you can go up to the craziest white nationalist at a rally and they're not going to try and punch you in the face. They'll call you names. They'll yell at you. But only when, like, the only time I've seen, and look, I know it's not absolute, just certainly you'll get, these people will attack you. But in Berkeley, for instance, the people on the right were minding their own business until Antifa walked in, the black bloc walked in, trampled over the barricades and got in people's faces. Then we started seeing people on the right jump over and start punching people. So if you're going to get a group of people together with weapons and you know, enter the space of your political rival, oh yeah, you're going to start a fight. You know what I mean? But when I walk up with a camera to white nationalists, they're calm as shit. You know, they're just like, "Who are you? What are you doing?" And that's about it. And then when I walk up to people in black bloc, they start swearing at me. They hold things in front of my camera. I'm like, I don't even know who these people are or why they're doing it. They just really hate the press. They just don't like, you know, documentation.
Well, I think it's anyone but them. Like, if you're not one of them, you.
Yep. If you dress the way they do, then they're cool with you. But I walk up wearing, like, you know, a button up and a t-shirt, and I'm not wearing all black. Then what they did was, if you saw from Boston, I had that guy get in my face and start swinging at me, and then he said, come on, tough guy, swing at me, at me."
That's the one I was thinking of. Yeah.
I'm like, why would I swing at you? I'm a journalist. Like, I'm just filming, dude.
Yeah.
That guy actually apologized, but fuck that guy. I don't give a shit.
Like later on or the same day?
Yeah, like I think it was a little while after, a couple months. I went on Tucker Carlson, and they played the video. I went on Fox a couple times. They played the video. I think it was Tucker Carlson. And then after that, someone hit me up and said, "Hey, I just want to let you know that, you know, I think he added me as a friend on Facebook," and I just ignored it because I don't know who he was. I just didn't care. But they were like, "He's asking for forgiveness. He wants to let you know he's sorry." And I honestly don't think he's sorry. I think he got doxxed because he did that. And people started, look, I don't appreciate doxing, and I don't appreciate targeting people. If the guy wants to be a wingnut and get in my face, he's allowed to. He never physically struck me. He did make contact with me, but I don't think it was that big a deal. It's not like he punched me. He just like swatted me. So I don't like the fact that people started harassing him. But apparently he got enough strife was caused to him that he tried apologizing.
So that was a public display of sort of making it right. Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, sorry. I've got to jump off, guys. This conversation is getting too real for me. I was here to talk about pedos. I do got to jump off.
We might think about wrapping it up anyway.
3 hours, man.
Yeah, no, that's an awesome.
Thanks for having me, you too. Tim, good to meet you.
Yeah, likewise.
Thanks for coming, man. I'll stick around, and I've got a few more super chats to ask, because I've got a fucking long list. I'll read through these, but it's been great having you, Tim. It's been really good chatting to you. Yeah,
let me take the opportunity after 3 hours to plug my channel. If I know you've got it in the description, but if anybody who's watching, if you care to watch my videos, Baron's got the link in the description below. So I try to do as much travel as possible. So it is, you know, I try to capture that. You know, I just try to be something outside of the mainstream news and focus on stories myself. But it's winter right now, so travel is really difficult. I'm going to be going to Montreal in about a week. And so I try to do more on-the-ground reporting. However, admittedly, most of the videos I do are just like current news and commentary. So if that's what, you know, you're into. Yeah, but it's about interesting stuff. It's not the typical cliche shit. It's about stuff that my audience would really appreciate. I watch, you know, probably 70-80% of your videos. I think I appreciate it, man. You know, my videos, they're usually like 10 minutes longer than 10 minutes. But what I try to do is, there's like if something in the news happens, I try to talk more about the broader issue. So it's not like Philip DeFranco, where it's like, hey, here's 3 stories from today. Like today I did a video about the current state of like Iran and how they're banning social media, and then the practices they're doing, how it ties into like more issues around the US, and even a story from like 2011. admittedly, sometimes I hate this about YouTube. I hate doing clickbait. I like having my titles be very descriptive. So it's like, you know what you're going to click, you know what you're going to watch. But my God, every time I tried titling this something about Iranian protests and social media, demonetized. And so eventually I'm like, no description, no tags, and it's just like generic title because it's the only way I can, make it work, because YouTube's.
They still get traction, don't they? I mean, I often don't worry about tags or anything. They still work.
Well, the important thing is, I think a lot of people fall into the trap of trying to make videos about trending topics. And then you end up getting people who don't care about you and don't care what you have to say. They just saw the thumbnail and clicked it. And so I think one of the benefits of being less specific about the titles and tags of your videos is that you want to curate people who want to watch your show. People are going to watch your videos because they're like, dude, Bering always talks about things that are funny, and I like interesting things, and he's got a good personality, and that's more important because then people care about you, and then you can be like, here are the stories that I think should be talked about, here are issues that should be talked about, and then a lot of people, like I have a friend who's got a ton of subs, but he falls into the trap of only talking about what the top trending news stories are, in which case he's cultivating an audience that doesn't care about him. They literally only care about the New York Times decided everyone should think about.
Yeah.
If you can convince people who watch you to watch your videos no matter what, then you can start taking power away from the mainstream media. And that's what I try to do, I guess.
Yeah. No, it becomes about your take on things, man. I think you said, you do it very well.
Thank you.
No, thanks again for coming, man. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. Hey, man, anytime. I appreciate it.
Cheers, man. All the best.
All right, so we're done.
Yeah. So I'll stick around and read these super chats. But
all right, man. Thanks for having me on, and I'll talk to you soon.
Cheerio. Thanks, mate. Okay, let's get through these. So Catherine Best says, who won the MMA girl fight against the comedian? I don't think it has been yet. The night it was supposed to happen, the cops actually showed up in Florida, and the body who regulates like fights in the state shut it down basically. I think it was because there was a fucking GoFundMe campaign set up to fund her flights down to Florida and all that, because I think she lives in New York, and so it suddenly became like they deemed it an actual fight where there was money involved, where it was supposed to be like, the idea was just always this is a spa in a gym. So they did say they were going to try and work it out. She was down there. She was meant to be down there all weekend. So I'm not sure if it's happened yet, but I'll have a look after this, and if it has, or if there's any sign that it's coming up, I'll chuck a link on Twitter. Alex says, a tip for your moderator, Rez. Oh, geez, Rez a moderator. Okay, Rez, how are you? What else we got? Mr. Sands says nothing. Thanks anyway. Preston Scott says, oh no, we read that one. That was about the quartering. Shaving cream is the new gold standard, says, where's the outcry on the central bankers? Sorry, mate, we're a bit late. Yeah, it's a topic I've been I'm interested in. It's a really daunting topic, though. I mean, it's a fucking broad topic. I don't know. I might get into it one day. Samurai Squirrel says, hey, Bering, if you want to grasp the feminist mindset, read Margaret Mead. She was a lesbian feminist who went on to Samoa, screwed a local, and wrote a famous book about their peaceful, free love society. Okay, I probably won't read it, to be honest with you, but thanks anyway. Furious George says, you can't fool the pool. Alex Karras says, Bering, give this money to Tim, all the tenor. If I could give up my comfortable life and photo for Tim, I would. Love what Tim does and have DSLRs and a drone. So do I. I'll tell you what, I'll do a super chat on Tim's next stream and super chat your tenner to him. But I think I'll lose 30%, and then so will he. So it's become a fucking it's whittling away. Thanks, man. The Quartering says, get me the fuck on. I want to talk about pedophiles. Mad Stalk 91 says, I know we read that one. That was about the student loan forgiveness company, which I don't understand. How the fuck does that work? Unless you've just got generous donors. Alex again. I'm sorry, I'm a bit late for this one, but it says, Tim, can you show us that tally over your right shoulder? I assume you mean Telecaster as in guitar, or was there a television? I don't know. No, well, shut up, Bearing, and take my money. Thank you. Maddie's Modern Life doesn't say anything. Oh, Maddie, yeah, I got your email, man. We will do a stream next few days if you're available. Maddie's got a cool channel. He makes good videos. Alex again says, actual journalistic integrity. Goddamn Nazi Russian Nazi Again, Bearing, you are going to share the super chat money, right? Fun times. Okay, I'll send two his way, but we're whittling that fucking those percentages down, man. Nate says, Tim, do you think people will? Oh, sorry, man. Tim, do you think people will notice the increase in their take? Oh no, I read that one. Derek says, judgment has no place in war. The Geth says the deep state didn't let him win. Look at the Russia investigation. The crazy cabbie, aka aggressive black guy, says rape is only funny if you're raping a clown. Cool. Neverender says every member of the House of Representatives and 1/3 of the US senators must have been in response to something he was saying, along with the state and local elections. Oprah Winfrey. I wouldn't have a fucking clue what you're talking about there, mate, but yeah, apologies and thanks. Buster and his mate says vote. Derek Wiesman says, I am a Trump supporter in capital letters. Buster and his mates again says he just went after marijuana Trump. Rip 2020. He won't have the voice. Grim Jim 666 says getting to a time where we're all just going to have to go underground like Demolition Man and rob these sensitive idiots for food. Tunnel snakes rule. Bunny Sengo says that the only men who are okay with rape are third world invaders who rape Western women and children. I wouldn't say they're the only ones, but quite a few of them seem to be, which is fun. Alex says, this stream needs more super chat. I hope you share with Tim Bearing. Fucking just go and fucking super chat Tim, for fuck's sake. He's got a channel. He does live streams, but I will. That's about $40 I've got to send him now. Fucking hell. Am I your bookkeeper? The Geth says when people say deep state, they are mean, unelected bureaucrats willing to abuse their power for political reasons. It's not as conspiracy as it sounds. Fair enough. Marmoth 409 says, wait, what the fuck happened now? By the way, cheers, cunt, love from Mex. Thank you. Furious George says, Tim Pool is a mixed race American anti-hero. Okay. Reginald McIntosh says, Loki dick string myth was one of the earliest shit posts. Some bloke was just having a laugh, probably made his wife believe it. Let's Talk TV says, we disagree on plenty, but mad support to you. Thank you very much. Gunther Ada says, did Sargon get BTFO'd by Spencer and effectively himself on Adam Raceworski Live? Did Sargon get BTFO'd? I think that he probably could have done a better job. I think he got bogged down in on some of his arguments that he didn't need to. I thought that I thought Spencer as well, threw a couple of unnecessary insults and that at times. I don't think either of them were ideal. But I got to say, Spencer's a very good. He's a very good fucking debater. He really is. Yeah. Rob Walker says, "Great that you guys are talking." I agree. Drew says, "Bearing, if you had one superpower, what would it be?" Fuck. I don't know. You put me on the spot. If I pick something, it'll be a bit shit. Like, yeah, I don't know. Fuck. Maybe like laser eyes, like Superman. That'd be right. But then again, flying would be right. I don't know. Go bearing pogo dick. I wouldn't have a clue. Yeah, I'd need time. And that's it. Thanks everyone for joining us. Yeah, I've still got to do I said I would do a Q&A, just a lone Q&A when I reached 100 million plays on the channel. That happened a couple of weeks ago, so I've still got to do that. So I'll try to do that this week. Yeah. All right. Cheers. Thanks for joining us. Catch you fucking later. Cheers.